Hello everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to another documentary day. How's it going? Hope you're having a good day. Slowly but surely, my body is recovering from the COVID. My voice is getting a little better each day. It's still rough, but it isn't feeling as bad as it has. So that's good. Hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Hope you're getting close to whenever it's time for you to get off for the weekend. Let's see what I have missed in chat. Baha, my lovely wife with 40 months, says, holy shit, 40 months is a long time. How? 12, 24, 36. It's 3.5 years. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Demos with 2 months says, hooray, I think. You think? It's a hooray indubitably. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? So, this is kind of cool. Oh, Altered Undying. Thanks for gifting a sub and starting a hype train. I appreciate it muchly. Let's see if we can get to level 5 of the hype train. Either way, there's something very cool I wanted to show you guys that I got for $20. Hydrate. I can do that. 75% to level 1. Thanks for the hydrate. That hit the spot. So I got this for $20 on Hell site, Amazon.com. It's kind of cool. I don't know how many people... Is anyone here a fan of Goosebumps? The 90s, early 2000s children's horror book series, Goosebumps, famously adapted into a television series. Anyway, it's like an anniversary, or it was, or something, and these were special anniversary editions. You can get these, again, on Amazon. This isn't an ad or anything. I just legit think these are cool. First of all, for 20 bucks, nice tin. The Goosebumps itself is, like, raised in the pattern. So that's, like, a nice tin in and of itself. On the back, it's got that green G logo. H-Baird says, yesterday was my birthday. Have some bits for the train. Thank you very much, and happy belated birthday. Hope you had a good one. Now, inside is the cool thing, and this is why I actually got it. Though the tin itself is pretty cool. They are new copies of original Goosebumps books with, like, the original 90s covers. They're, like, exactly the ones from the 90s. And that's so cool. I don't think I've ever in my life, even in the 90s, seen a Goosebumps book that's in this good a shape, because it's just never been read before. I used to get them from the library, either at school or the local library. So, it's funny seeing them like this new. They're on Amazon. They have different editions. I think they have 3 different tins with 3 different sets of books. I got one that had, well, I'll just tell you the books, I guess. Sorry about my voice again. Let's see, this has The Haunted Mask, one of my favorite ones. That cover is brilliant. Love it. Say Cheese and Die. Famously, Say Cheese and Die. I'm gonna make it full screen, actually. I should do the full screen for this so you can see the artwork. There's the Haunted Mask again. And the backs are the same as they were in the 90s. The color combinations are so 90s, too. Makes me want to get one of those. So it makes me wish the technology around me was like clear plastic of outrageous colors that I can see through, instead of my stupid future PC that's literally just... Look at that clear glass. That's lame. I need cool plastic see-through computer. Anyway, Say Cheese and Die. Famously, Ryan Gosling starred in the adaptation of this when it got adapted for the TV show. Because it was made in Canada. And so was Ryan Gosling. Welcome to Dead House. This was actually the first Goosebumps book that was published. Haven't actually read this one. Oh, one of my favorites again. This is why I picked this one. This one had the most of the ones that I liked the best. A Day at Horrorland, also one of my favorite episodes of the show. And then the final one, Night of the Living Dummy. There he is on the cover, Slappy, which is funny because Slappy isn't the primary antagonist of the first book. Slappy is like a twist at the end. And then the series picks up from there on with Night of the Living Dummy 2 and 3 and Bride of the Living Dummy and the subsequent Slappy books. Yeah, I know about Goosebumps. I know. Everyone, calm down. I'm taken. I am married. I know. I'm very attractive for my Goosebumps knowledge. No, seriously though, these are great. I just, anyone who's like a 90s nostalgia person who read the Goosebumps books, I just couldn't believe what a good deal this was. It's 5 of the books in reproduction. They're in great shape. They look nice. And they're just good. And it was 20 bucks, including the tin. So you can just look it up. If you just look up like Goosebumps books on Amazon, I'm sure you'll find it. And they have different sets. So that's cool. Also, I put the other ones on my wish list. So if anyone wants to buy me one. I'm joking. Okay. So that's out of the way. Just thought that was pretty neat. And that's it. I completely forgot to conduct the train because I was excited to talk about Goosebumps. That's okay, though. Not a big deal. Oopsie. Alright, so like I said, today we're just going to be looking at different documentaries. Different, short form internet documentaries. My throat's a little sore. Like, it's not as bad as it has been, but I'm just kind of tired in general from still recovering from COVID. And like the past couple days, we did full normal streams, so I needed something a little chiller for myself. I hope that's okay. I'm still gonna hang out and have a good time and talk about all the stuff we're watching. It's mentally less taxing on me watching interesting documentaries than it is looking at chuds or sovsits or things like that. So I hope you have a good time regardless. Still have COVID. I tested positive yesterday still. Baha is now testing negative. Historically, I've been about 2 or 3 days behind her in terms of symptoms, so I'm assuming it'll be another day or so before I'm testing negative. But I'm certainly functional, so that's good. I can't wait, though. I miss people. I miss going out and, just being around people. But what are you gonna do, Okay, so let's see what we're gonna watch first. I had some film ones, some cult ones. Just a lot of interesting stuff. Do I want to watch something interesting for... Let's watch a thing about David Cronenberg. Let's start with something fun. I love David Cronenberg. David Cronenberg is a filmmaker who's most famous for his body horror work. His most famous films being Jeff Goldblum's The Fly, Videodrome, Crash, Crimes of the Future is the most recent film he put out. Gosh, I feel like I'm failing. What's the one? Naked Lunch. He did Naked Lunch, too. Another famous Canadian. Thanks, Canada. Anyway, so, he's a great filmmaker. Let's take a look at this little short doc on his career. I love the guy. Also, he's fucking based. He's not anti-trans. He's an ally. He's fucking awesome. So thanks, David Cronenberg. Also, fun fact, myself included, there is a thing where, I'm not gonna say this is universal, it's not the Blahai by any means, it's not even as big as the cat girl meme, I don't think, but there is a decent portion in the trans community, of which I am a part, that are fans of body horror. For me in particular, and some other trans people, body horror in film is a way in our youths that we were able to relate to the feelings of alienation we felt from our own bodies, and the horror reflected that we were feeling going through puberty and stuff of the wrong gender, So anyway, through that I grew an affinity for body horror, David Cronenberg, and just, weird stuff like that in general. So, shout out to the fellow trans body horror fans. MH Darkbeast says this might be interesting to watch just for the documentary elements of the history of the messed up train wreck. Marlon Brando hated Marlon Brando hated Val Kilmer so much he'd eat tons of cabbage before scenes with him so he'd have terrible, silent, but deadly farts. What in the world? Oh, from Island of Dr. Moreau. Yeah, we could probably watch that. I love that.
Very mild-mannered, and it seems fun.
Oh, Vinegar Syndrome also. I don't know who is or isn't a fan of, Blu-rays and stuff, but Vinegar Syndrome... sorry, I'll get to those in a sec, Bumble Homestead. Vinegar Syndrome just announced their 10th anniversary box set, and it's crazy. It's 10 films that were thought to have been lost forever that they found either originals or good enough copies of to restore. So it's 10 films that haven't been seen in decades that they found and have restored for this 10 movie box set. It's a cool idea. It's a very cool idea for a box set. And then Bumble Homestead said, thanks for the stream while I sew ballet costumes and wait for the kiddos' MRI results. hurt foot. I'm very anxious. I hope it's nothing serious. I hope that I'm able to kind of distract from the nervousness. I hope everything's okay.
Funny to say, but normal?
His films are very visceral, and I think they're at their best when they're visceral.
Incredibly challenging, iconoclastic,
Guillermo del Toro.
anarchic horror.
I hope you don't have a weak stomach.
Guillermo del Toro made one of my favorite movies ever, Shape of Water. Excellent fucking film. Beautiful fucking film.
The scar was, a vagina.
He's a nice Canadian boy. He used to be.
That's John Carpenter. If you don't know who John Carpenter is, we can't be friends until I show you some movies.
Oh, he's an artist.
I haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, by the way. I know. I haven't seen it yet. Oh, Gina Davis is great. Oh, Scanners! The best. Are they gonna show this? I can probably show this. It's a movie thing. It's fine.
David Cronenberg.
Yeah, we can, because you can show gaming things, and with the warnings on Twitch now, you can... We're good. Dragons Under Ninjago says, "Hey Hannah, glad to be here. Guess what? I was not expecting to be interested in aviation while I'm already almost done pursuing my art film career. Heck, I plan to finish my art and film career first and then go to aviation school to get my private pilot's license. If I were to tell my high school self that I'll be into aviation, I wouldn't believe it."
Is fascinated by the
Going the Travolta route.
relationship between
Except hopefully less Scientology.
the brain, the body, and the gag reflex.
Oh, here it comes.
tradition-
Scanners. I like Scanners. Scanners is a movie that's... How do I put this? Scanners peaks early with the head explosion, but the rest of the movie's still quite good, and the end is good too. But, like, boy, is that head explosion really, like, whoop! And then the movie's like, alright, it's a movie, but that head explosion, that is the most famous shot from a movie, and it's in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
In classic horror films where you don't show the terrible, grotesque...
Scanners, the premise is that there are some people basically with telekinetic powers, and they can do various different things with their powers, including blow up someone's head.
horrible thing on camera.
You've definitely seen this gif somewhere.
A meeting of minds during a psychic demonstration ends with one mind getting blown.
Oh!
And
They
David
blurred it.
Cronenberg
They
decided,
blurred it.
No, I want to
Probably a good call that they blurred it. Did you see that blur? Holy shit, I love that. That's so good.
show it because you can't imagine a human head exploding because you've never seen it before. So I'm going to show it to you.
Bob,
To be clear, I'm not a psycho. I should probably point that out. Ever since a young age, we had satellite TV, so we had a lot of networks. So we had both the Discovery Kids channel and the Discovery Network. So there was a show called Popular Mechanics for Kids. Some of you might remember it, some might not. They did an episode, maybe a couple episodes, about filmmaking and special effects makeup, and that just fascinated me as a kid. And then the Discovery Channel had another show called, like, The Magic of Movies or something, that dealt with, like, special effects, as well as, you know, the practical effects and creature effects and, like, gore effects and stuff. So I was fascinated with that from a young age. So I don't want you to think I'm a crazy person that's like, oh, ha ha ha, gore is great. No. Real gore is not great. I find the art of filmmaking, practical effects, beautiful. I think it's a wonderful craft, and I think it's so cool, and it makes me sad that so much of it is a lost art because now they just use computers. I'm a little pretentious about it. But anyway, I just want to point out, I'm not cuckoo or violent. I'm quite a pacifist, believe it or not. I really like effects. I think they're cool.
popcorn was flying. People were like, oh, it was quite literally five.
I'm also kind of defensive about it, in fairness, too. I've told you guys this before. I liked horror movies growing up. Like, I loved them. Pretty basic bitch stuff. Like, Nightmare on Elm Street was my favorite. It still is my favorite slasher. Excuse me. But my dad was so weird about it. Like, the fact that I liked Nightmare on Elm Street and wanted to dress up like Freddy Krueger for Halloween. Like, he legit was afraid I was gonna, like, stab him in the middle of the night. Like, he asked me that shit. He's like, you're not gonna, like, hurt me, are you? which is like weird. And then I think I told you guys this story too. My mom had a CPAP machine. You know, like if you have sleep apnea or probably other things, it's like hoses that go in your nose and help you breathe while you sleep. Anyway, there were like holes basically, or slits that seemed to be cut in the hose for her nose thing. And they questioned me about it quite severe. They were like, did you do that? Like they thought I tried to kill my fucking mom or something. Turned out what was really happening is it's like a rubber hose with like a wrapping around it that's like kind of rubber and springy. She was supposed to be using distilled water. She was supposed to be using distilled water in the machine because the machine has a little bit of moisture in it so it doesn't just dry out your everything. And she wasn't using distilled water, and the like heaviness of the water or whatever, because we lived out in the middle of nowhere, so we had like a well from the ground, so we had like really heavy water, really. So anyway, it fucked up the thing, and the reason it looked like slits is because that's where the weak points, it was like accordion, and the slits were just the weak points in the plastic where it was breaking down. Anyway, for whatever reason, because I liked horror movies, my parents like treated me like I was some little fucking freak, even though tons of people are into horror movies, and literally they grew up in the 80s when Nightmare on Elm Street was coming out originally. I don't know, they made me feel really weird about it. They're not good parents. Dragons Under Ninjago says, once I became a filmmaker, I wanted to make stop motion films because I feel like there's not many of those and people enjoy those. Yeah. Next month, there's a Ray Harryhausen box set coming out that looks great. Another thing on my list. No, seriously though, the Ray Harryhausen thing looks great. If you're into stop motion, check out. It's got Gulliver's, you know, the 3 Voyages of Gulliver. It's got the Argonauts movies, others. It has Earth versus the Flying Saucers. It doesn't have Mighty Joe Young, which is his big one. The big one, Mighty Joe Young. But you can get that separately. Speedy Yoshi says, hey, pissed at my dogs because they tore the nose off an expensive Five Nights at Freddy's plush. They're too cute and dumb to stay mad at, though. Altered Undying says, I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies as a child. Then I was shown Poltergeist on my last day of junior high. I had been fascinated ever since. Poltergeist's a good one to get started on. Poltergeist is fun because, like, it's got a Spielbergian vibe to it. I know that Tobe Hooper directed it, supposedly. There's rumors about things that cause Spielberg to get behind the camera sometimes, and I'd believe it. It's got a very Spielberg feel to the movie. It's an adventure film, you know? It is a horror movie, but it's an adventure film as well, and it has that spirit of adventure, and I think that's what makes that movie special, is it's not just scary house thing, which it easily could be. It could just be another haunting movie, but it's not. It has that whimsy. It's whimsical, even if it is scary. Anyway. Not a Psycho, Hannah. And there's a link.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Oh. The Psycho collection's coming out soon. The first 4 movies, well, the first 4, like there's more than 4 movies. Psycho 1, 2, 3, and 4 on 4K. I ordered that when it was announced like 7 months ago or something, and I think it's finally coming out. I think I got the notification that it was like sent like a week ago, so I'll actually probably get that. That's funny. History Chick, thanks for 30 months. Do you ever think how Texas Chainsaw is just a home invasion movie from the view of the home invader? You know, I feel like Leatherface is a little overzealous with the chainsaw. Just saying. It is Texas, though. So. The Psycho sequels aren't bad, by the way. Well, the first one isn't. Third one's... Fourth one's interesting, but at this point the prequel thing has been done better by the TV show Bates Motel, so the fourth movie's kind of redundant now. But Psycho 2 holds up. Psycho 2 is good. Check it out. Oops. Where did he go? Oh, there it was.
Fireworks of gore.
Your films are probably best known, symbolized by the exploding head at the beginning of Scanners.
Do I have horror movie recommendations that don't involve gore, animal death, or jump scares? I've never tried out horror movies, but those three things I'd prefer to avoid. Let me think for a second. Gore, animal death, or jump scares? Honestly, you might want to start with, like, Universal classic monster movies. Coraline's a good one, too. Coraline's good if we're going children's horror. I'd start with probably children's horror, honestly. And I don't mean that, I'm not being, like, if you're looking for lower intensity, that's what children's horror is for. So there's either older horror, like the Universal monster movies, like Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, etc. Psycho's pretty good. I would recommend Psycho. Psycho's great. Halloween doesn't really have much... No, there's a dead animal in that. There's a dead animal in Halloween. Trying to think, is there a dead animal in Nightmare on Elm... Oh, there's gore in Nightmare on Elm Street 1. For sure. Shit. Maybe some Japanese horror films? I don't know.
How do you...
The Babadook's good. That I'm pretty sure that has jump scares, though. Could be wrong. Dragons Under Ninjago says, "Dang, Hannah, give me a Coke. I gave you a donut yesterday." I would if I could. MH Darkbeast with 40 months says, "Woot, 40 months in a row of worship for Tinfoil Queen Hannah. Hannah, Queen of the Vampires. Fuck yeah, I am. If I could become a vampire, I would. I should put that out there. I don't think vampires are real, of course. I'm not, you know, out there. I'm not kooky. But statistically, you know, vampires probably spend a lot of time indoors, especially during the daytime, because what else are they gonna do? They can't go outside. So maybe they're a fan of streamers, and if they are, I'll just have you know, vampires who might be in my audience, I'll become a vampire. I think that'd be pretty sweet, so hit me up." Ender92, thanks for 39 months. Says, "Howdy, haven't been around much, working a ton, just finished up the 13th Doctor's final season. What was Chibnall thinking? Also along the line of horror, what's something niche I can bring to movie nights with my buddies? Ooh, Like, what do you mean by niche? Are you looking for funny? Are you looking for it's bad? Or are you looking for, like, it's just obscure? Because I can get you either. Or both, I guess. People Under the Stairs is fun. I like People Under the Stairs. Ice Cream Man. I like Ice Cream Man. That one's so stupid, it's fun. God, I wish I had my whole collection up here so I could just easily show you, but like most of my horror movies are downstairs. There are tons of unappreciated horror movies. Oh yeah, it's huge.
feel about that?
Sorry, we're a minute into the documentary. Jesus Christ, I'm bad at this.
The idea of an energy in a mind that can't be physically contained is very appropriate.
Santa's Sleigh. Santa's Sleigh's fun.
I think
that's what it's called.
To the way I feel sometimes.
I don't think it's streaming anywhere, though. I think it might be on YouTube, though, but I'm not positive.
I'd be happy to be
The DVD's like $10 on Amazon.
By that for a while anyway, until the next movie.
From body horror gross-outs to mind-expanding art cinema, David Cronenberg creates extreme images that uncover the fears and desires buried deep within our psyche.
I liked the first House movie. I thought that's pretty good. I haven't seen the second one, but it does have one of the best sequel titles ever. House 2, the second story. Get it? Because, like, the second story in a house. Or a sequel. It's pretty good.
He's really part of like a handful of people.
No, not the Japanese movie House. Not Hausu, House. It's just called House. It's not, it's in English.
Who are able to make films today kind of
Okay, you have a movie question. It's a movie you saw years ago you can't remember the title of. Okay, describe what you know can remember.
completely from their own perspective without having to dilute their process or their vision.
David creates images like virus that actually infect you with concerns that were not your own in the beginning. You know, society is out to get you, technology is out to get you, and your body is out to get you.
I like that half the shots of his movies they're showing have to be blurred for YouTube.
I've known David Cronenberg,
Again, John Carpenter, the GOAT. The GOAT!
God, since the late 70s. David is an intellectual filmmaker, so it's all in his mind.
The way that
I also want to point out, for those who aren't familiar with John Carpenter, I have never heard him talk with this much enthusiasm or respect about anything, even his own films. He clearly respects Cronenberg's, like, films so much, and probably him as a person, because, like, seriously, John Carpenter doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck about anything, which is great. It's part of his appeal. He's just an old dude chilling, doing his music. He rules.
explores
John Carpenter, if you don't know, directed The Thing, Halloween, They Live, Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, Precinct 13, Mouth of Madness, maybe? Did he do Prince of Darkness? He's John fucking Carpenter. God damn it.
the psyche, the human body, and our relationship with our human body.
Anyway, now he does music. I mean, he's done music always, because you know the famous Halloween song? You know, it's great. It's one of the best, like, synth themes of all time. John Carpenter did that. John Carpenter did the music, his own music for, I don't know if it's most of his films, a lot of his films. And he's excellent. And since he quit filmmaking, he just goes out and does concerts. Like, he literally just, like, makes music now, and it's beautiful. Seriously. He got to do a career and make some of the greatest films of the 20th century, and then he just goes and does a synth music career? What a fucking badass. Odd Tall Man, thanks for 8 months, says, really showing here with the sub baby. About to pop.
Is unlike anyone else.
Born into a middle-class family in 1940s Toronto, David Cronenberg studied organic.
Okay, let's see what Rin said about the movie she can't remember. It's about a group of people, including a priest, who go to hell for some reason, and at the end of the movie, one of the characters is cut in half and walks away with the group on his hands. It's a bad movie. We watched it when we did a weekly bad movie screening. Ooh, I do not remember that. I would remember that, too. But I don't remember that. I don't think I've seen it. That sounds interesting. If you remember, let me know. I'd check that out.
Organic chemistry and literature before developing a passion for filmmaking.
Toronto used to be a very polite, conservative city. That kind of repressed atmosphere breeds perversion from seemingly normal people.
In the late 1970s, Cronenberg directed a series of movies that gave birth to a new subgenre, body horror.
Traditionally, with horror films, the danger lurks from outside. Unquestionably, in all of David Cronenberg's films, the seeds of the horror come from within.
He's fascinated.
He did do an Elvis biopic. I have that one. Shout Factory put it out from their Shout Select catalog. At the end of that movie, it's kind of interesting. He does kind of a freeze frame where, like, Kurt Russell plays Elvis in that movie. He just kind of freeze frames and the camera's just circling him. It's kind of fun.
By
I enjoyed the Baz Luhrmann Elvis a lot more, though. No offense to John. John's great. He really is. But I think Baz Luhrmann's pretty much had the final word on Elvis biopics. I like Baz Luhrmann. I'm sorry. Is that wrong? Is it wrong? If it's wrong to like Baz Luhrmann, I don't want to be right.
body betrayal. The idea that within us we have things that are not entirely of our control. And that dichotomy is never more evident than in our relationship with sex.
The first Cronenberg movie I saw was Shivers. This mad scientist had concocted a combination of a parasite and venereal disease. And I thought, God, that's so great.
I love that man. I love that man with my whole movie heart. Seriously, if I had to... I think I've told you guys that my favorite director in general is Paul Thomas Anderson. But if it was like, who do you want to meet? Who's someone you would sit down and have a dinner with and watch a movie with and just hang the fuck out with? John Carpenter. I think John Carpenter would be a lot of fun, wouldn't take himself too seriously. I think he'd be a lot of fun.
The disease.
And we can sit and watch Halloween 6 together and make fun of it.
He escapes into a Montreal high-rise.
And every time we laugh, he can count up how much money they had to pay him for that piece of shit. Not Neil Breen. No. Neil Breen's interesting, but that would feel like work. Interacting with people like that is work for me. You gotta understand. That's my 9 to 5. So, like, that just feels like labor. I'd rather have fun if I was having fun with someone, you know?
And in one of the film's most notorious scenes, Cronenberg's parasite emerges as a phallic turd that attacks a woman in her bathtub.
Phallic turd is an unfortunate phrase.
What I like about the early Cronenberg films is they have an exploitation quality. Their cheapness and their dirty underground quality makes them a little more frightening and dangerous. Like that scene in the bathtub with the parasite.
Cronenberg's B-movie monster carries with it a deeper anxiety about sexuality.
Unfortunately for me, I saw that movie before I had sex. So for a while, I thought, maybe that sex thing is not all that it's gonna be.
Shivers' final.
And then he made a movie about what it's like to fuck a fish man. Interesting.
Scene offers a dark.
Seriously though, Shape of Water, watch it, it's fantastic.
Vision of the sexual revolution as the infected tenants attack the only.
I forget the name of the guy who plays the villain in. He's also Zod. What is this actor's name? He generally plays a villain. Played Zod in the Superman, Man of Steel, Zack Snyder disaster. Fuck. Michael Shannon, thank you. Michael Shannon's the villain, the antagonist. I guess it's multifaceted. It's kind of it's a man versus society story, but the society is embodied in a man. Those attitudes are kind of concentrated. Anyway, he plays the primary antagonist that's like a human antagonist to the, love interest and protagonist of the film. And he plays the best douchebag villain. He does something so fucking disgusting in that movie. It's the best, villain scene ever, in my opinion. Like, how do I put this? There's scenes in movies, there's probably a TV trope's name for this, but there's a scene in a movie where there's an antagonist or a villain, and they do something in a scene, and that emphasizes their villainy. It makes you hate them, it makes you realize that even, on top of all the obvious evil, they're just shitty people, right? Like, Inglourious Bastards, the opening scene where Christoph Waltz asks for milk. It's a weird thing, but I feel like a kick the dog moment. Thank you. That's what it's called. That's what it's called. Yes, TV tropes to the rescue. I need to go look at TV tropes more often, apparently. Anyway, so kick the puppy trope. Michael Shannon in that movie comes into the bathroom to use the bathroom. Our protagonist and her friend, the supporting actress, who's been in tons of stuff. She was in that film Ma, but she's just in everything. She deserves a breakout role, because she's actually really good. And I feel like she's always a supporting actress. I don't know what she's done that maybe she's been the lead in, other than Ma. Anyway, Michael Shannon comes into the bathroom. These two women are cleaning the bathroom, as is their job, because they are, the people who clean the bathroom at this military installation. And he comes in and washes his hands initially, cool. He's washing his hands before he uses the bathroom. So he washes his hands, then uses a urinal in front of them in an uncomfortable scene, and then they expect him to go wash his hands again, and he doesn't. He only washes his hands before he uses the bathroom, never after. That's a kick the puppy moment. That's fucking weird. Like, I've certainly heard of people who wash their hands before they use the bathroom and after. Totally understandable. Especially you're out in public places. You've maybe been, like, touching products and stuff. Yeah, you'll wash your hands and then use the bathroom and then wash them again. Understandable. But this guy just washed his hands before, not after. And then he, like... I feel like there was something gross with his hands, too. Like, did he then, like, take a mint or something out of his pocket and, like, roll it in his hands and, like... Nasty. Nasty, nasty shit.
Resident free of the virus.
Anyway, that's my Michael Shannon P. Kick the Puppy story.
And actually tells you that the only way to deal with horror is to be part of it. The ultimate way to deal with temptation is to give in.
There's something joyful about it, and you kind of wonder whether the filmmaker...
Did he have an infected finger? I don't know if he did at that point in the movie. I'd have to watch it again.
...is on the side of the parasites, rather than the human beings.
Shivers was attacked in the Canadian press, accused of using public arts funding to make sadistic pornography.
Oh, fuck off with this. Are we gonna just have this argument every day for the rest of eternity vis-a-vis art and its depictions of violence and sex?
And Cronenberg's landlord evicted him under a so-called morals clause.
Imagine later you have to be like, yeah, I'm the guy that evicted David Cronenberg because I thought his movie was bad. What a shitbag move, dirtbag landlord.
The power of any real artist is to be, at some point in his career, misunderstood.
Shivers was the most profitable Canadian movie of its era.
Oh, and they're mad about it. Fuck off. There's your CanCon, motherfucker. Shivers.
And the films to follow cemented Cronenberg's place as the king of body horror. In 1983, the director found a new terror in technology.
When does the plot start to unravel here? I mean, who's this black guy? Is he a political prisoner?
James Woods plays a cable TV station.
Too bad James Woods is a piece of shit, huh? He's been in some good stuff.
Owner.
Just goes on like that for an hour.
Who sees potential profit in a sinister torture porn program.
Torture, murder.
An apparent reference to Cronenberg's own outlaw cinema.
We never leave that room.
Videodrome is like the book of the apocalypse for our modern times. It prophesies.
Can I make a hot take on Cronenberg? I'm not the biggest fan of Videodrome. Don't get me wrong. On an individual basis with, like, the different, like, practical effects, the sequences in the film, they're fucking wonderful. Like, there are some wonderful visuals in that movie. Wonderful, disturbing, horrifying things. And I understand the overall... I get what the movie's going for. I understand. It just feels a little loose for me in terms of the plot. Like, we get it. Okay, there's, like, a signal, and it's super violent, and also maybe drives you crazy and makes you violent. And also, here's all the creepy things you see. But it's just a little loose. I need a little bit more of a plot line. I needed more narrative. It was just kind of like, ooh. I don't know. I prefer Crash. Or The Fly. The Fly's got a real strong narrative, you know?
Sizes.
I can deal with ambiguity. I struggle a bit with when things just kind of meander. It's not ambiguous, it's just like things happening. Like Tetsuo, also known as the Iron Man, right? Good movie, great movie. I actually like it, and I'd probably watch it again. But goddamn, that movie's plot is thin. And I get it, it's just supposed to be a nightmare, that's the point. It's just supposed to be the vibes of a nightmare. I understand. I don't not get it. It's visually a wonderful film. It's cool as shit. But also at like the 35-minute mark, I'm like, all right, we get it. You're all infused with the metal. We understand.
Everything that is happening right now.
When Woods is seduced by Videodrome's mystery signal and his TV seems to...
I plan on getting really big on Twitch by discussing obscure, independent Japanese body horror, by the way. I'm sure all of you understood what I was talking about there, so it's a good call on my part to talk Things no one understands.
Come to life.
Sorry. I enjoy talking about stuff. I'm just always afraid that people are just bored. Just always afraid people are bored by the shit I talk about.
Cronenberg creates an unforgettable...
I do like the visual of the Atari sticks on the TV. It's very of its time.
Image of the fusion of biology and technology.
These inanimate objects are given animation, or they're given this like fleshy humanness. Videodrome represented sexual curiosity and a voyeurism, and how the voyeurism can destroy you and disintegrate you.
It really deals with cyberculture as a drug, as an addiction.
This, again, the visuals are great. Him, like, getting into the TV, and it's like it's like folds. He's like into it, like it's this weird fleshy thing. Long live the new flesh. Windchanter with 18 months says new baby smell. This stream baby's name is going to be Brundlefly. Probably keep an eye on that one. Be buzzing around before you know it.
Addiction. Literally, your desires will...
The most fucked up movie you've seen is The Skin I Live In. I love The Skin I Live In. I watched that a while back. Unfortunately, it's like out of print, except in like foreign language markets, which it is a foreign film. The Skin I Live In is, I want to say it's a film from Spain. I believe it's from Spain. Antonio Banderas is in it. It is... I don't want to spoil it, because I feel like it's almost... But I can't talk about it without spoiling it. Yeah, Baja saw parts of it too. Saw probably half of it, maybe a little more than half, because I was watching it and you sat down and saw some of it. The R-word scene is awful. Oh yeah, there is a scene like that. It's body horror. I guess if you're not trans, which the main character isn't. Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to. I'd recommend the movie, but it is rough. But also, in terms of like potential trans themes, it's really interesting. The director might just have a forced feminization fetish, but they made a good movie regardless of their actual reasons, so I'd recommend it. It's good. And frankly, Antonio Banderas, this is going to sound weird, and the bar is so low, but there are so many, I think, Hollywood actors, and I know that he started his career in Spain. I know he's Spanish. I'm just saying, even at that point in his career, I feel like there are so many men who would not be comfortable playing, especially at the time, because this was years ago even, playing a character who is basically sleeping with and in a relationship with in some ways. I'm trying to say it not spoilery, so that's not entirely accurate, but people who've seen it know what I'm talking about. To have him be in a relationship with what, in the context of the movie, is effectively a trans woman, right? I think there's a lot of straight cis male actors who would be like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's because, Hollywood and movies' typical view of trans women is so negative. Like, insert clip of Ace Ventura ending here, and it just isn't that. He's just cool in the role. It never is like a point of contention. Anyway, it's pretty good. Check it out. The Skin I Live In with Antonio Banderas. Watch it. Dutch localizations of movies not meant for children never have dubs, so there's always the original language or at least English dub included. English subs aren't a given, though. Might want to look into DVDs from the Netherlands if you want an English language movie, and it's not in print from English as the primary language countries. I had to do that for one of the seasons of Black Mirror. Because I love Black Mirror. You guys know I love sci-fi and I love anthology. I own the entirety of The Twilight Zone. I own, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, the VHS films. Like, I fucking love anthology stuff. So I wanted to own Black Mirror, but it's not available on Blu-ray in the United States, so I had to get some of the Blu-rays from some of the seasons from the UK, other ones I got from the Netherlands. So the menus are not in English, but I can get to the episodes I want to get to. So, am I ready for the next VHS movie? Yes, VHS 85. Shudder's been doing a pretty good job with the VHS series since they bought it up, honestly. Much improved from Viral. And the new Creepshow season. Creepshow's great. I love that show. I own the seasons of that are out, as well as the films. Windchanter says, isn't Antonio Banderas related to Charlie Sheen? I have no idea. No idea.
Consume you. And media will devour you. And you will become the media.
There's kind of this great space that you have when you're watching a Cronenberg film to kind of think, what the is that?
There's no way that movie would get made
Oh,
now.
the gun scene where he's got the slit that he's like putting the gun in. Oh. Don't stomach fuck yourself with a gun.
Anti-establishment and so subversive and bizarre. It's asking the audience to question.
Never put anything in yourself that doesn't have a flared base. A gun doesn't have a flared base.
How they ingest media.
Also, you're not supposed to play with guns.
Too wild for the mainstream and too intellectual for the horror audience, Videodrome was Cronenberg's first commercial flop. But the director's daring originality caught the eye of Hollywood. After a successful adaptation of Stephen King's The Dead Zone.
Nice. That's actually one I haven't seen. I haven't seen Christopher Walken Dead Zone. Don't know if it's good or not. Dragons Under Ninjago, thank you for 2 months, says yippee! Just getting episode 1 Phantom Menace flashbacks. Yippee! What if your gun has a flared base? You can't point, you should never point a gun at anything that you don't intend to destroy. And if something is inserted, by definition, it's pointing at the thing. So, no. Too dangerous.
He was hired to remake a 1950s sci-fi classic.
Oh, fuck yeah. Do I get to show off? Yeah. This is one of my favorite box sets. Apparently by documentary day I meant let's watch a thing about movies, and then I'm just going to use it as a jumping off point to rant for hours. This is my The Fly box set. Came from Scream Factory. This is really fun. I like this box set specifically for a couple reasons. First of all, decent box, which is important in box sets. Sometimes you'll just get really thin cardboard, which you know isn't going to last. This is actually really thick, nice cardboard. You can hear it. So that's actually solid, and like when you take the movies out, it's like firm. So that's nice. God damn, I should do a Blu-ray review channel. I could do pretty good in you know. I've seen some other Blu-ray channels. They're not run by the most charismatic people. Throwing shade at hypothetical people. Sorry, I'm just joking. Anyway, so the movies it comes with are interesting too. It doesn't only come with the more recent 1980s David Cronenberg Fly films. The first one, of course, with Brundle Fly, played by Jeff Goldblum, famously, Gina Davis, starring alongside David, and just a really solid movie. I think everyone knows about that. It also comes with the sequel, which I, believe it or not, have not seen. I plan on watching The Fly 2 at some point. I know it's about his son. I know Gina Davis is recast and dies in like the first 5 minutes. But I haven't seen it. Intend to at some point. But what I like about this is that it not only collects the 80s films, it collects the 50s films, because The Fly, being a remake, of course, didn't originate in the 80s with Cronenberg. It originated back in the day. It is The Fly, a black and white film with Vincent Price. I think people probably look at this movie and assume it's like a really schlocky... Like you think in your head, oh, is it just a movie where there's a guy in a dumb fly mask, you know, chasing people around? No, that would be The Return of the Fly, in which it is just a really stupid movie where there's literally a guy you can see on the back here in a dumb fly mask. Yeah. So that's the sequels. The sequels are that. But the first one is actually a pretty good thriller. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a lot of peril. There's some good, effects for the time. And the actual reveal of the fly is, I think, effective for being a movie from the 50s. I don't know if I'd say it holds up, especially not compared to the David Cronenberg film, but I think that's an unfair comparison. For the era that it is from, I think it's effective, and I think the story around the effects is what's important for that movie, not so much the effects. And, of course, everyone loves Vincent Price, right? Vincent Price is fucking fantastic. So that's my Wonderful The Fly box set. I love it. It's great. So if you ever see this and you're interested in The Fly, would recommend. 90% of the scenes are people in lab coats talking. Yeah, it's a movie of its era. It's a very talky film. It always helps me when... some people have a hard time getting into older movies, like pre-70s especially, because movies didn't really become as filmic as we think of them today until post-1970s. 70s and post-1970s, there's a lot of new film techniques and technologies that came about, as well as new people coming out of, like, new schools of thought in film that revolutionized the industry, right? People like Spielberg and stuff. He's the big name, but of course there are tons of other ones, Francis Ford Coppola and all sorts of fucking people came out of this era and did just amazing things. But earlier films, sometimes I find it helps to think of it more like a stage play that's been filmed. If you contextualize it in your brain like that, your brain's expectations, I think, are a little closer to what films were back then. They are very talky. They're usually, no matter the genre, they're set in drama, characters and stuff. So if you're ever watching an old movie and your movie brain is like, oh, this is such a slow movie, maybe think of it like a play. Imagine it's a play that you're watching that was filmed. Might help. Maybe not. Maybe it's just not for you. And that's completely fine. I don't judge anyone for their individual taste in movies, It would be like someone, and it annoys me when people are pretentious about movies like that. Because, for instance, I've read some old books, but more often I like either nonfiction, or if I do read fiction, I like pretty modern fiction, like Michael Crichton type stuff, stuff that's from at least the later half of the 20th century, or new stuff, or comic books and graphic novels and stuff like that. Imagine if someone came up to me and was like, oh, you don't read 18th century novellas written by the Romantics or whatever shit. Like, same thing with movies. You like what you like. If you like old movies, great. If not, I think it's an acquired taste. I think anyone could get to like older movies, but if it's not something you're not interested in, it's just something you're not interested in. So, can't blame you there. Did I already say what my favorite Vincent Price film is? Ooh. He's been in so many things to varying levels of involvement. I'd have to look at a list. Let me look. Juggle. I will juggle in a moment. Like Edward Scissorhands. Would I count Edward Scissorhands? Because he's in that movie. He's Edward's creator, but like not that much. Right? So that's not really a movie. It's not like a movie that he's the star of, but he's certainly in it. Great Mouse Detective. Did he play Ratigan in The Great Mouse Detective? Am I crazy? He was in... Here comes... Oh, Dr. Phibes. The Dr. Phibes movies, maybe. I enjoy those. Not The Raven. Not The Raven. The Raven, fun fact, has, oh gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Here's Johnny. Jack Nicholson is in that film. And apparently he directed a little bit of it, which is kind of funny. Juggle. I can juggle. Ooh, The Tingler. The Tingler's fun. That's a William Castle one, I think. So, in the 1950s, there was a guy named William Castle who was very famous as a producer and distributor for having gimmicks. having gimmicks in films, stuff like 3D, or things like having a skeleton fly above the audience, you know, it's on strings or whatever, and there's someone operating it, or having actors coming into the audience of the film as if characters from the film are coming out of the movie. In the case of The Tingler, there was a pretty simple gag that was with that film. And The Tingler, the premise of the movie is that Vincent Price, as a scientist, discovers that the reason that human beings scream and the cause of fear, I believe, is that there is or it's not the cause of fear. There's basically a parasite in everyone's spinal cord in this movie that feeds on fear, and it will grow out of control, called the tingler, because it's spine tingling, you get it? But if you scream, screaming makes it not be able to grow. So screaming is a defense mechanism against this parasite, is basically this movie's premise. Like, that's the twist, is, oh, the reason we scream is because of these parasites that everyone has in them. But the doctor does an experiment where I think he takes away a woman's ability to scream, like cuts her vocal cords or something. I don't remember the specifics. So and then he like makes her scared of things, you know. I think he induces like an LSD trip or something similar to make her afraid, to give her a bad trip, and her tingler gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. She was mute? Okay, I haven't seen it in a long time. And then, you know, there's big scary tinglers. So yes, the gimmick was they put vibrators in the theater seats. So the idea was like, oh, the tingler got you because you're vibrating and tingly, and it's really just vibrating your seat. So that's fun. That's a fun one. Wow, what a prolific career. And he's in Thriller. Oh yeah, he is in Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein. I like the Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein and the Invisible Man movies. Those are fun. The Pit and the Pendulum. Yeah, he did some of those Poe adaptations. God damn.
It was one of the rare occasions where a remake took the basic premise of the original film to another plane, somewhere.
See, this is, gosh, this I think is the reveal at the end of the first film. I didn't want it to be spoiled, but it is. Like, for the 50s, especially when you're watching it in black and white and proper lighting, it's pretty good for a 1950s movie monster mask. And it's not like a big silly thing where it's going around, like, murdering people. Again, that's the second movie. But, like, it's not bad for the 50s. If you haven't seen a bunch of 50s movies and you're wondering, what are you talking about? That looks terrible. You don't know where the bar is.
Far.
The bar is low. Do I need to bring up the Ro-Man from, oh God, what was even the name of that movie? Human versus Ro-Man. What is the... Robot Monster. Robot Monster. For reference, this is where the bar is. The monster from Robot Monster looks like this. So, like, the bar for 50s monsters was not high. Jade, what do you want me to wear for the hats off? It's like a gorilla. It's like a space gorilla, I guess. I don't know.
Far more interesting and sophisticated and better.
If you look at the original...
Which hat with flower crown? Okay.
Original Fly and this, they have nothing in common, basically, except a man gets mixed up with a fly.
In Cronenberg's remake,
Frankly, that's the way to do it. If you're gonna remake a movie, do something different with it. Unless it's a terrible movie. For instance, John Carpenter with The Thing. The original Thing film was barely an actual adaptation of the original short story, which I think is called Who Goes There, if I remember correctly. And John Carpenter more directly did the story justice, and it's one of the best sci-fi / horror films of all time. I'd argue just one of the best films, but I don't know shit about dick, so.
Goldblum plays scientist Seth Brundle, whose DNA is fused with that of a fly during a botched teleportation experiment. As Brundle enters the telepod that will lead to his transformation, Cronenberg offers an ironic evolutionary chart, from monkey to man to monster.
It's dealing with such a clear...
It makes me wonder, there's microbes in this tube, right? And like, there's in your eyebrows, like everyone has little mites that live in their eyebrows all the time, like tons of them. They're just so small you don't really see them without a microscope. But you know, you got in your eyelashes right now little tiny bugs in them, and so do I. So like, why doesn't he combine with those bugs? Just because they're smaller bugs? Is it literally just there was more DNA in the fly? How does that work? Answer my questions, Cronenberg. Speedy OG says 60s horror monsters be like.
You know what I don't understand, though? What? What's a gorilla doing underwater in the first place?
Well, it's funny you should... I mean, see, George, they're onto us!
Let's get out of here.
I've also seen schlock. Repeat to yourself, it's just a show, and you should just relax. La la la. In fairness, they then, you know, spent the whole movie complaining, so they didn't even take their own advice.
Here, B-movie science fiction premise that automatically hooks you. But he actually makes it a philosophical journey.
The thing was fun to see in theaters. I think they fucked up some of the projection, though, which is such a shame, because that's a gorgeous movie, and it was a little off, but, like, it was a ton of fun. I would do it again for sure. Especially, God, I hope they do some other John Carpenter ones. I want to go see Halloween in theaters. That's probably fun. They might even be doing it this year. Who knows? Because with the strike happening, there's not as much coming out.
The process of Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis, you know?
Gina Davis was cast as Veronica, a
Maybe the machine is designed with that in mind, but not other things in the tube, sure.
journalist who...
That hand waves it. I just need a hand wave. I don't need a real answer. And by the way, none of this affects the quality of the movie. I just think nitpicking is fun. I like to deconstruct things and just talk about it. I'm bad at small talk, but I'm good at talking about bullshit.
falls in love with Brundle and witnesses his mutation.
David told us that getting mixed with the fly was sort of a metaphor for having a deadly illness. You know, this is like people who are terrifically in love and then one of them falls horribly ill.
Ooh, there's the ear.
There's a scene where he's talking to me and his ear falls off, and it's his worst moment, his lowest moment.
I'm scared.
Oh, he's so wet. The hug always gets me. I know she loves him, but he's so wet and pussy.
David likes to explore things that happen with people's bodies.
You got to see Psycho with a live organist playing the soundtrack. Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Holy shit. The Bernard Herrmann score is probably fucking fantastic through that. I can just imagine. Stromboli says you should review Christian propaganda films sometimes, Hannah, maybe with a sidekick. How about on my own? I enjoy working alone. I like cameos sometimes. I like, you know, and we can have some other streamers on sometimes, but I enjoy working on my own. My one and only, just Hannah.
Brundle is a perfect Cronenberg hero, a brilliant mind trapped inside a body in revolt.
I could do it with Baja, that's true.
David truly has compassion for Brundle. He, in many ways, is similar to him because it was his intellect, his curiosity that got him into these things.
The Fly was a critical and box office smash.
Oh man, I've never seen that poster. That's actually a cool poster where he's in the Fly's eye.
That got him into these things.
That's good. That's a good poster. Why isn't that the main poster? That's like a good poster. I get it. The main poster with the pod is tantalizing too. Goddamn, movie posters I think used to be better. Why do they get the worst people to make movie posters now? They're all so fucking terrible.
The Fly was a critical and box...
Is Drew Struzan still alive?
office.
Has he had to live through seeing the art of movie posters become just fucking Photoshop garbage?
Smash. But despite Cronenberg's earlier flirtations with mainstream projects like Top Gun and Flashdance, he decides to continue pursuing his own unique vision.
That's where David Cronenberg and Hollywood really parted company, is he just doesn't have a sentimental bone in his body. He can't do it.
Making his films here in Canada is a big reason why he's able to keep his kind of creative control.
Cronenberg found a
MSKTB89 with 27 months says, Stream baby, this baby's name is going to be Alice, sweet Alice. First, middle, last.
new audience with Dead Ringers, a study of the tragic...
Sorry, one sec. Since we're talking about movie posters anyway, I have a bunch of movie poster cards because I intend on putting these on walls at some point in some kind of collage. Probably in a frame, I would make a collage for the record. Anyway, I just wanted to go through some of these posters too while we're doing this because they're interesting. Halloween, come on. If they made this movie today, it would just literally be just like a bad Photoshop job of all the main characters like on the thing with whoever's the biggest star, Donald Pleasance or whoever, like right at the front, even though he's a supporting character, and Michael Myers would be somewhere in there. It'd be fucking terrible. But look at this, you get it. It's a goddamn jack-o'-lantern and there's a knife, he stabs, you get it. And this is the night he comes home, you get it. Even this one, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, it's busy. I'm not gonna say it's great, but at least it's original. Jesus, look at that. Fuck. Wait, that one's... Army of Darkness. Is this a Drew Struzan? Looks like it. Hero Pose. Ash Williams. Excellent choice. Rin with 33 months says, I was so advertised to, so I had to fix it. Couldn't find out what that movie was called, sadly. Also, I don't know if you're big on books, but I started reading House of Leaves, and it's very good. I have not actually heard of that book. I'll check it out then. House of Leaves. Okay. I'll put it on my Audible playlist or something, or my wish list. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This isn't an original poster, I don't think. We get it, though. Did the Killer Clowns from Outer Space IP just transfer to someone, by the way? I don't know if they did or not, but I've seen so much merchandise for them this year at, like, Spirit Halloween. I know they're coming out with a new game, but it just feels like there's 10 million Killer Clowns from Outer Space, like, licensed merch this year, and I don't know why. I've never seen that before. Like, as much as I like Killer Clowns, it feels like someone just picked up the IP and is trying really hard to make it a bigger cult classic. You know what I mean? And it is a good movie. Again, if you're going to make any movie, try and make it bigger amongst general audiences. Killer Clowns is a fun one. I get it. It just feels like someone's desperately trying to increase the general public's knowledge of Killer Clowns. It's a good movie. I like that movie. I'm waiting for the 4K, because that's inevitable. Dr. Gamble says, you can't just listen to House of Leaves. You must read it. It's one of those books. Okay. All right. Tons of Killer Clowns merch and spirit this year. Oh, yeah, I noticed. Part of the book is the visual of the words on the page. Interesting. You have piqued my interest. I like when books do interesting things like that. Evil Dead 2. Decent enough poster. Better VHS cover, though. Hellraiser, again, mostly just banks on how good of a design Pinhead has. Carrie's terrible. The Carrie poster is just fucking bad. I can't even defend that. First Nightmare on Elm Street. Fucking excellent. Look at that. He's like a dream demon. He's ominous. You don't know much about Freddy. Nancy's there. She's vulnerable. Like, you get it. It's a Nightmare on Elm Street. This looks like it could be the cover to a Fear Street book or some 80s pulpy horror thing. It's perfect. Bet bro would let you borrow it? I would, if he would. No pressure, though. I can always get it. I'm sure it's on Amazon. Jaws, that's self-explanatory. I don't need to explain Jaws. Silence of the Lambs, again, includes the moth that becomes a thing later in the movie. Drew Struzan. Love me some Drew. This is Titanic, but this isn't an official poster. It's just done in the style of an old-timey thing. Ooh, original Gojira. That one's fun. Sorry, now I'm just all into this. What am I even doing today?
Fusion between twin gynecologists.
This is the stream that never ends. I just ramble on my friend.
Played by Jeremy Irons.
Dead Ringers was kind of a turning point in his career. He was making a movie that looked about as great as anything else out there.
Oh, it's the anniversary?
He had one of the world's greatest actors giving one of the greatest performances.
I'm actually surprised it's not coming out on 4K this year if it's the anniversary. Seems like a good opportunity for Shout Factory or Arrow to pick it up.
We are about to separate the Siamese twins.
In the film's finale, the twins' morbid bond leads to their mutual destruction. Here, Cronenberg shows that a fractured mind is even more destructive than a body in revolt.
Don't forget the good part.
It's a horribly depressing, tragic, operatic kind of finale. It is about the human condition. It's about how the closest kind of relationships can ultimately be destructive.
I'll get it in a sec. We never did figure out all those clown sightings from 2016. I think it probably was just either, was that the year It came out? Could have started as a marketing stunt, gone wrong, because either way, whether it started as individual pranks, or if it started as, like, a marketing stunt, however it started, I think kids picked up on it and just started doing it, as kids are wont to do. Like, oh, have you heard about all these fucking clown sightings? Let's get a clown outfit and do some weird shit and freak out some adults. Like, that just seems probably like what's going on. Forrest Espion says someone wants the general population to be aware of the existence of killer clowns. 2016 killer clown scare of the 2016 news. Oh, that's the title. I think that was automatic. Sorry.
Okay. Clown sightings, the trend that's terrifying people across North America.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's just kids.
With its focus on psychological rather than physical brutality and star turn from Jeremy Irons, Dead Ringers signaled Cronenberg's shift from...
Oh god, I had a fever dream the other day, though, with COVID. I don't even think I told Baja about this yet, because it freaked me the fuck out. Oh my god. I had this dream. You know how when you have fever dreams, things are, like, really intense and, like, weird and disorienting and you feel confused? Anyway, I had this dream that I had fallen into some kind of, like, back rooms type thing. Like I had somehow just slipped through the cracks in reality, but everything's like instead of being like a banal office like you see back rooms things to typically be, it was like a circus tent, just never-ending circus tent surroundings. And there were fucking clowns, and it turned out that like clowns were like these other dimensional beings that like there's a reason humans are scared of them instinctually. We just like don't know. And that it's a big secret, and that the fact that I knew it was like, you can't, like, the fact that you know this is dangerous knowledge. And then it was like what do they call it in SCP? A thought hazard. I think they called it a thought hazard in SCP. So if you think about it, then you're going to find the clown back rooms. So now I've just infected you all. According to my fever dream, I have now infected you all with an info hazard of the clown back rooms. Don't fall into them, the clowns will find you. This is why I think people who are conspiracy theorists who believe in wacky stuff like this are so funny to me, because like that happened, and obviously it's just a weird fever dream thing that's funny. Imagine if a wackadoo had that dream. They'd be like, oh my god, that's a real thing, and they'd make a whole fucking Rumble channel about it. Anyway.
Shocking horror director to serious artist.
He wasn't a genre horror filmmaker anymore. It was kind of like he had carved out his own genre.
I really love the early horror films. I think that's where David is at his best. He's doing art movies now, which I find funny.
In 1991, the director turned William Burroughs' psychedelic novel into a film.
Don't you dare shit on Naked Lunch.
Naked Lunch was a seemingly impossible adaptation of a very highly regarded work of literature, which was not like
Give me those sweet, sweet bug drugs.
anything he had really attempted before.
I've never
Some
seen
of the kind
Nomads,
of classic
no.
themes of his work are the machine and the body and the deterioration of the body. But what I also see too is the deterioration of the mind, the mental unraveling. And you see
What's the
that
name of the
in
guy who plays RoboCop? Peter Wells? Peter Wellers?
Like,
because he's also in this.
Naked Lunch.
Here, Cronenberg removes his body horror concepts from reality, making them hallucinations in the mind of the film's drug-addled hero.
Weller.
William
Weller.
Lee,
Peter Weller.
I have arranged all this just...
Oh, they blurred out its bug back-gina.
have a moment alone with you.
I'm offended that you blurred that.
Cops take him in for questioning. This like Bug's kind of asshole.
He is Buckaroo Banzai, one of the greatest fictional characters of all time.
Talking to him.
Just remember. Oh, one of my favorite lines in movie history is from Buckaroo Banzai, and it's when people are making fun of Penny at the club for saying what she said, and Buckaroo Banzai to the crowd, when they're all laughing at her, goes, "Hey, hey, hey, don't be mean. Never be mean. Because just remember, no matter where you go, there you are." It's just my favorite. It's also just I think it's a good ethos in general. Don't be mean. You're the only person you're going to spend every single day of the rest of your life with, for sure. So be the kind of person you'd want to be around.
Him about his job, and he's just like losing his mind.
Come, Mr. Lee. You don't have to play dumb with me.
It's got to be an amazing, amazing point in cinematic history.
Was today supposed to be the rapture or something? I actually don't know. I didn't hear about that, if that was a cult thing. What about Bob with a $3 tip? Can you post that link in chat so I could click it?
Having triumphed with one supposedly unfilmable book, Cronenberg pursued his passion.
Oh no, they're going to talk about Crash. Crash is such a good movie that's so
One
fucked
adult
up.
and 2 children, please.
I can think of at least 2 things wrong with that title.
I never got that joke as a kid. I remember that scene, and I remember as a kid being like, okay, I vaguely get that the movie must not be about having lunch or being naked, but I had never seen I didn't see Naked Lunch until between then and now, so I didn't even remember that was the movie. I barely remembered that scene. I get it now. That's funny. Naked Lunch joke.
For another taboo novel.
Crash is a movie that can only...
If you don't know what Crash is about, I would recommend you go watch Crash and don't look up what it's about. Unless you're squeamish and can't deal with car accidents or weird fetishes. But Crash is entertaining. Also, James Spader in Crash. One of his greatest fucking performances. Seriously. It just makes me want him to be Robert California in Crash. I just imagine that Robert California in the last seasons of The Office is just the character from Crash. Just later in his life.
Only be done by a man.
Seriously though, especially if you have trauma involving car accidents. I think I tweeted about this when I watched Crash for the first time. I have never seen a more viscerally accurate depiction of car accidents on film than I have seen in Crash. Crash is the best, most scary depictions of car accidents I've seen. It's great.
And that has an almost erotic fixation for cars.
I love him. He's very calm, and you would never think this guy who's, got a wonderful marriage for years and is a normal guy that has all this stuff in it.
Yeah, there's another movie called Crash. Don't confuse David Cronenberg's Crash with the Oscar-winning film Crash, which is bad.
In the mid-1990s, Cronenberg adapted J.G. Ballard's ultra-controversial novel about a cult of car crash fetishists who mix danger and sex to reach the ultimate erotic high.
Crash is an incredibly cold, dystopian, misanthropic reflection about the relationship between our pleasure and our destruction.
Oh! Yep.
In the horrific collision that opens the film, two seemingly normal people find erotic awakening in the near-death experience.
I gotta turn the screen away right now.
The encounter between
for Twitch
Holly Hunter's
purposes
character and James Spader's character is kind of a romance.
I think it's blurred, but
written
I'm
in
still
blood and steel and glass.
In order to feel and have intimacy, it had to be through car crashes and violence, and then that's what happens to these people. Nothing wakes them up.
Everything in his films
just
is
trying to be careful. Again, it's YouTube safe
but
stuff,
in a
so I'm
way
sure
that's
it's fine.
not attractive. It feels really grotesque and a little morbid.
I remember going on the set and, hi, and it was James Spader, us, hi, how are you doing? Hi, nice to meet you. It was, and then going in the back of the car.
Oh God, with the broken legs.
Rosanna Arquette's
Jesus.
Gabrielle and Spader's James Ballard combine flesh and machine as they explore a strange new sexual frontier.
I just had to think of that scar as a vagina. It was almost like that's the healing of some kind of crazy trauma that this woman had. That's how she got off.
He always has like these women who are very kind of complex and sexy and smart, but very confused and dystopian in their ethics.
At its Cannes premiere, the film was intensely controversial.
The
Why?
rage and the
Are you fucking kidding me? It's a Cronenberg movie.
anger, there were of people who were just so
I guess this is late enough in his career that really, are people shocked at this point? Really?
incensed and hated it. And then there you had Bernard.
It's fine if you don't like Crash, but like, really? This is the most controversial movie you've ever seen? Kinda doubt it. You haven't seen enough movies.
Bertolucci, who just thought it was a masterpiece.
Crash took home a special jury prize for audacity, cementing Cronenberg's reputation.
Crash is a movie about extremes. Crash is a movie about people whose lives feel empty, accepting for this very strange thing that they have in common. This extreme fetish that gets them together, and they do incredibly dangerous things, you know? I don't know. It is what it is. Let me put it this way. I don't think that there are very few, although there are some, topics that you really don't make movies about or are too shocking to really make movies about. For instance, Serbian film. Serbian film crosses a line for me. Serbian film is fucking awful. I will never watch it again, most likely. And if I do, it'll be a mistake. Right? I'm not saying it should be illegal or anything. Serbian film didn't do anything illegal to get made. It's just a fucked up movie that I personally think is fucked up. Cronenberg movies, there's not a single one I think that I go, that's too far. It's not so much about the content as it is about the framing of the content. Right? I understand people's concerns with, like, R-word scenes. It's completely fair and reasonable if you think those have no place in film whatsoever. Totally fair. Understandable. But, like, that's not even what we're talking about here. We're talking about him making a movie about people with a particular fetish in which no actual sex occurs. So, like, what's the issue?
As an uncompromising cinematic.
It just seems weird to me. Acting as though Cronenberg didn't take the topic seriously. If you've seen Crash, that's what makes it horrifying, is that it is that out there, and it just makes your skin crawl. It just makes you go, hello! That's the point. It's body horror. It's the horror of having something inside you that makes you feel good, even if that thing is something that is either socially unacceptable or in some ways risky to yourself, right? There's so many layers of metaphor that you could look into in this film about all different kinds of desires. And I'm not talking sexually necessarily. I'm just talking in general. Different human desires and how extremes of it desires impact people with them. It's a really great movie. You can say you don't like it, but don't act like it's using these things frivolously. It's not an exploitation film with no purpose. It literally is commenting on something. Not that a film has to. You don't have to justify it. Just saying in general, public opinion-wise. Solo's the one you won't watch. Is it the poop? Because if it's the poop, don't watch Pink Flamingos. Pink Flamingos, it's real dog poop. So.
Like outsider.
Every time he's about to sell out.
Solo. I have Solo. I've not seen it. I put it on one day when I was sick. I was sick one day, I don't remember what, and I put on Solo, and I basically immediately fell asleep, which is probably for the best. I probably shouldn't watch Solo while I'm sick.
He calls me and he says, I think this time I'm going to do it.
For those who don't know, Solo, or 120 Days of Sodom, is a film based on one of the works of the Marquis de Sade. The Marquis de Sade being the namesake of the word sadism. He was a wealthy elite back in the day who was a bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and liked to torture and hurt other people and write stories about it. Again, it's where the word sadism comes from. So, consider that. Don't watch the movie, probably. It's in the Criterion Collection.
Bless, that sounds fantastic. And then, a month later, I know he didn't do it.
But over a decade after his commercial hit, Cronenberg began to pay a price for his independence. His 1999 techno-thriller Existence was lost in the hype surrounding The Matrix.
The Matrix is a movie that's confusing to me in that it's a movie I love so much, but is also loved by so many people I hate who don't understand the movie or have co-opted imagery and iconography from it in order to basically propagandize a horrific, awful, regressive worldview, especially to young men. It's unfortunate, especially considering, again, it was written, directed by 2 trans women.
And he had to mortgage his home and defer his salary to complete his
It's not completely accurate. He didn't hurt people. He did like being hurt. His stories were largely meant to be outrageous, to push lines, to outrage the elites of the time, etc. Still no good story, of course. Didn't he get locked up and smeared poop and blood all over the walls?
Next feature, Spider, which also flopped.
Spider made nothing, absolutely nothing. I mean, I ran into David Cronenberg at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood, and I said hi, and he was desperate to get a film, and I think History of Violence landed on his desk. And
I've never seen Existence, so.
He found a way to make it his own.
Based on a graphic novel, A History of Violence stars Viggo Mortensen as Tom Stahl, a small-town family man hiding his past as a vicious gangster.
Sir, we don't carry much cash here. You gentlemen are certainly welcome to all of it.
Well, I know that.
I haven't seen the rest of the movies they list, which is this movie, A History of Violence, Eastern Promises, and Map to the Stars. So I can't speak about them. Let's move on to a different documentary, because holy shit. Talked about that forever. Criterion Collection doesn't mean much when Armageddon and The Rock are in it as well. You don't have to agree with every single there are over 1,000 titles in the Criterion Collection, almost 2,000, and you named 2. I think it's a little disingenuous.
God, man, these med beds need to hurry up because I'm not getting any younger.
It's a healing, holistic technology, but
This is a documentary about QAnon people who believe in med beds.
not like what we're used to.
They can regenerate molecular genetic biomaterial.
Molecular genetic biomaterial. Wow, those are words.
For example,
I have seen Oculus. I enjoyed Oculus with Karen Gillan. Karen Gillan doesn't get enough, I think, respect. The biggest thing she's been in is Guardians, and she's good in Guardians, she's fun in the Marvel movies. But she's actually a really good actress. She was in a movie somewhat recently called, oh my goodness, what is it called? Let me pull it up real quick. Karen Gillan trailer. Duel. I'm just gonna play the trailer. This is fine. This isn't an upcoming movie. This is an old movie, so I can play this and it isn't breaking the SAG or WGA rules. I heard they're negotiating again today. Hope that gets resolved. I hope the guild gets what they want. Seriously. Anyway, so this is an old movie, old-ish. It's some years old. It's a good movie. If you've ever seen a Yorgos Lanthimos film, like The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, Dogtooth, those movies have kind of a weird dry humor to them where everyone gives their lines in a very deadpan manner. This is not a Yorgos Lanthos film, but it seems like it's going for something similar. I'm not going to say it's as good as any of those movies I just listed from Yorgos, but this is very good, and Karen Gillan is excellent playing double duty here as herself and her clone. So, mad respect to her. Really good black comedy. Cynical. Enjoyable. It's called Duel. Yes, there's another movie called Duel. It was Steven Spielberg's first feature film, was also called Duel. It's not that one. You can get a clone of you made that will get your memories, basically, more or less. But if you turn out not to actually die of your illness, you both aren't allowed to live, so you have to fight to the death. The reason behind this is not really explained. They don't explain the backstory of it, which is good. I think it's funny. Anyway, very good movie. Very enjoyable. Would recommend. It's a really good movie about what it means to be the best version of yourself. What is the real version of yourself? Is a more self-actualized version of yourself more you, or is it a different person? Does that person have the right to... it's a whole thing. Watch the movie. It's good. I'm not going to opine about a movie you haven't seen. Cashel Gladio says Thomas Riker would have jumped on this shit so hard. It is on Hulu. It's on Hulu. Sume says, hey everyone, just a reminder, hug the people you love tightly. You never know when you may lose them. Tell them you love them. That's good. It's good advice. Sorry if something happened, really. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but...
We can create organs and limbs.
If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. There's a long history of people selling random pills, lotions, and gadgets that claim to cure all known diseases.
Investigate before you invest in health services or products. Help stamp out quackery.
But now, theories are spreading around mythical healing devices called medbeds that are supposedly being held back by shadowy elites. But beyond UFOs and medical trips to the moon lie scams that are targeting vulnerable people in their most desperate moments. In 2020, just as pandemic lockdowns were in full effect, online searches spiked for something called medbeds.
I first heard of medbeds through Telegram.
QAnon was such a perfect storm of things. No pun intended, but it is a pretty good one. You had already had the MAGA stuff, right? That had already laid the groundwork for so much. In 2017, QAnon came around and started growing, right? It was able to sort of figure out how to best appeal to the kind of people that conspiracies appeal to, how to gamify it, how to make it a thing that becomes a community effort through the various different Q influencers that would spend time deciphering posts and talking about them and all sorts of things like that. That really led to almost... It changed how conspiracies spread. It was so successful. It was, in terms of the market of conspiracies, QAnon was a disruptor, and I fucking hate that word. But it is. It really was. It fundamentally changed that entire landscape. And then, on top of it, then when we started getting 2020 coming around, and we had people locked in their houses or working from home for long periods of time, or people going into early retirement, whether they could afford it or not... all of a sudden you have all these extra people that are basically captive audiences, subject to weird algorithms on YouTube and Facebook and Rumble, which only recently got better, but even then, it's not great. Radicalizing people towards these weird worldviews. I don't know. It's just an unfortunate confluence of events, both social, political, and environmental all at the same time.
Believers don't necessarily...
Although I guess that describes every historical thing ever, is a confluence of different groups, events, people, and ideas. Yeah. Footage of a medbed. Speaking of James Spader, do you even know who I am? I'm the fucking Lizard King. Where did it go?
fully agree on what medbeds look like or how they're supposed to work, but the general idea does sound pretty amazing. An end to sickness and suffering, available to everyone for free.
These beds are going to be rolled out in a wave of humanitarian aid across the globe.
So there'll be no more cancer, no more autism, no more Alzheimer's, no more joint.
I just want to point out to anyone, I know everyone here knows this, the continual notion of a quote-unquote cure for autism is fucked up. Please stop. Please stop saying that. Autistic people don't like that, generally speaking. Like, don't fucking do that.
Pain.
King of the Red World, thanks for the hydrate command.
No more blindness. My goodness me.
Some versions of the theory claim these supposed medbeds come from the research of late Serbian inventor Nikola Tesla.
Nikola Tesla, it's cool that there are some things that he got really right. There's a lot of things he got really wrong. He's not magic. I get it. David Bowie played him in a movie, so he's automatically like 10 times cooler. Doesn't mean that he did the things that you think he did. The Prestige is not a documentary film.
But most people posting about medbeds portray them as advanced technology designed by aliens, just waiting until humans, as a race, are ready to receive it.
We've been doing lots of sessions with the medbed and the ETs.
The holographic medical pods are powered by plasma, by crystalline plasma fields.
Crystalline plasma fields? I don't even think that makes sense. It's crystalline and it's plasma? For something to be crystallized, it has to be a solid, right? Is this genuinely just nomenclature that's going over my head? Or is this make as little sense as I think?
Medbed theories may have blown up during the pandemic, but similar ideas about hidden alien technologies and a secret space program have circulated online for years.
The powers that be that have been...
Oh my god, it's Secret Space Program guy. We know him.
Suppressing humanity and all this technology has been suppressed have actually did a disservice to us because now we are ripe for the invasion.
If medbeds sound familiar, that's because the concept's been featured in several sci-fi movies. So medbeds either came from extraterrestrials, or Nikola Tesla, or maybe just some Hollywood screenwriter. Regardless of their origin, medbeds have found a politically aligned home within the QAnon conspiracy movement.
I think the reason this medbed conspiracy theory might resonate with some of the QAnon believers is the same reason that other similar conspiracy theories in QAnon repertoire resonate with them. All of these stories have some things in common. One is denial of science. Medbeds are also a way
it's
to...
the most bland super soldier you've ever seen. Hey, would you say that about Steve Rogers?
Around the idea that we don't...
Think carefully before you diss my favorite Marvel character of all time.
Trust the medical field. We don't trust pharmaceuticals. We don't trust the government.
Yeah, I think the lack of health care is a big part of it. I think it's an avenue for people to try and cope with the idea that they're getting older and illnesses are becoming more and more a part of their everyday life, chronic pain, just different things that come, unfortunately, as you get older, and they don't know how to deal with the fact that they live in a place where that is fucked for them. Like, if they don't have good insurance, they're fucked. So they want to believe that there's a conspiracy stopping them, simplifies things, makes a better world more attainable by making it a black and white issue of an evil person that can be quote-unquote stopped, you know? Juggle.
There must be secret devices out there or secret, inventions out there that they're keeping from us that if only we could get our hands on, that would make our life a lot better.
Some medbed heads have posted videos saying they believe Donald Trump will be the one to finally reveal the technology to the world.
I think he would be looking better age-wise if that was the case, because he probably would have had access to use one.
Beating the so-called deep state.
I'm told he's the owner of Medbed Facility Fabrication.
Trump isn't exactly known for being conspiracy shy.
This election was rigged. Everybody knows.
Hey, it wasn't. Have you considered that?
knows it.
But there's no sign the former president has ever endorsed medbed theories. In 2021, Newsweek reported on an open letter to Trump from a disappointed supporter who wrote that his wife was in great pain and needed a medbed.
And how many millions more across the country need a medbed? My family is struggling, and so is our country.
And this is where the youth...
I'm not trying to be condescending here. To be clear, it's always hard for me. There's a line that I'm trying to balance, because on the one hand, I don't want to punch down, right? If someone seems to not have the capacity to discern reality from delusion in certain ways, everyone is susceptible to this, but some people may be more susceptible. There are people who tend to get scammed a lot, right? I don't know if you want to call these people gullible or whatever. I don't even know how to discuss this issue, though, appropriately, because on the one hand, I don't want to punch down. I don't want to just be like, you're an idiot. Why do you buy this? Like, your wife is in pain, and instead of doing anything productive or helpful, or even just being with her, you are caught up in delusions that are being sold to you by grifters on the internet, right? But that'd be punching down. But on the other hand, I don't want to go too far the other way with it and then be condescending and be like, oh, you know, this person just isn't in touch with reality. Like, they're so incapable, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know where to land on it. Like, which is closer to the truth even? I don't know. Is it someone who is deserving of any amount of derision? Is anyone, really, when it comes down to it for this kind of thing, how much of their rhetoric is hateful? I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough because life isn't black and white, like conspiracies. You can both be a victim and a perpetrator at the same time, and it gets hard as an outside observer to weigh those things when you're trying to talk about someone or to them, depending on their character. Like, I both feel bad that this guy has been, for whatever reason, has bought this conspiracy theory. He's a victim in the sense that he was promised things by people who had no right to promise him that. But at the same time, he's also probably an anti-vaxxer. He also probably wants to overthrow the US government and put Trump in charge. Same situation with Peter. I feel for Peter for a lot of reasons, but then he'll say things that are just so objectively destructive, even if he doesn't think of it in a malicious way, whether he is just obscuring how he actually feels about it, or if he genuinely doesn't know. He continually espouses concepts and ideas that are hurtful, harmful, destructive, and fascistic. Like when he constantly was trying to get me to agree to some sort of military coup being a good thing in virtually any context. You know? I don't know. It's tough. It's tough where that line is. I don't know.
Utopian tale of UFO universal healthcare becomes a little harder to stomach. These are just a few of the comments left under blogs and videos about medbeds.
I was involved in an accident about 5 years ago.
Just checking to see if you have any information.
Right? Another big factor, it comes from desperation. Conspiratorial people who fall into conspiracies, tend to do so or are more vulnerable when they are desperate. Scams like this prey on the desperate. And it's so sad. I think a lot of us here probably in this chat have been in a point in their life where they have faced, like, just terrible poverty. You know? There are times in my life when I've wondered, where am I going to get money for food tonight? Right? Like, I need to figure out, I need to go out to this farm and for hours pick fruit, you know, and, like, make sure I have enough both for the gas money to get here and enough that I'm still going to have money for dinner for something for, like, $5, you know? Like, I lived that shit. I know what it's like to struggle, though the way that people struggle is going to be different depending on where they are and stuff available around them, whatever. I'm not saying my experience is reflective of everyone's. The point I'm just trying to make is when you are in a high anxiety state because you're vulnerable, because you're broke, because you feel desperate, it puts you in a place where you're unable to as well evaluate claims people are making because you want any opportunity, no matter how much of a long shot it is. You want a chance to get out of the hole that you're in. Poverty makes you desperate. Poverty makes you make bad decisions, and it's not necessarily your fault. You just aren't given good opportunities often. So even when bad ones come, you think it's worth taking. It sucks. The system is fucked. And it takes advantage of people who are poor or hurt or sick, and it chews them up and uses them. Anyway, H. Baird says, a lot of this is just effective epistemology. They don't have the tools to come to the truth to avoid falsehood. Some of this is due to culture, and some I think is basically a learning disability. A lot of people do poorly in school and never understand that getting the right answer is a skill that can be developed. So they assume that an answer being right or wrong is an act of power. In America, the literacy rates are pretty unfortunate. Like, even if you're considered literate, like when I went to school, when I was in college, because I went to a pretty good school district when I went to public school, at least, which I'm very, very grateful and fortunate that I was able to get a good education in that context, and I had learned to read quite well at a young age. So, you know, I'm not the best writer in terms of prose or creativity, but I can write in a way that is legible. Not with handwriting, but I mean, I can write in a way that is understandable for people, you know? I'm not always perfect, but, you know, I can write competently enough. When I was in college and we were grading each other's papers and stuff in, like, the writing classes, I couldn't believe the literacy levels of some of the people whose papers I was grading. Like, unironically, some of their papers, it broke my heart because their papers read like something a fifth grader wrote or a third grader wrote, and it's just hard to understand. It just so sad. It sucks. The state of public education in this country for so many people is so bad. It just puts people in an untenable position. Where do you go from there? It's so important to make sure when kids are young, when they're kids, that this stuff gets taught to them, that they have these opportunities. And it just sucks. It sucks that we fail so many people.
As to how to get on a list for med beds.
I would love to be a med bed
I was just
patient.
diagnosed with terminal cancer now.
I'm blind, and I was wondering if somebody could tell me approximately price range and where to go buy it.
My 3-year-old grandson's brain cancer. He desperately needs a med bed.
I think the danger is also that people who believe in them would just postpone necessary treatments in hope of one day soon getting into one of these med beds and solving all their problems, rather than following established science and medical advice and treating issues that require urgent care.
These theories aren't just giving false hope to desperate people. Some companies are now also using the term medbed to market unproven medical devices.
Disgusting.
We're the only ones in the medbed movement that actually have a physical product that you can try.
In this now private YouTube video, Anti-Aging Bed's founder, John Baxter, pitches his signature product, a roughly $2,000 medbed. The company's site sells a host of wellness products they claim...
Jesus Christ. Is this parallel thinking, or did he literally do this intentionally to try and get QAnon people to buy his piece of shit bed? Because that's disgusting. The people who actually take advantage of conspiracy theorists make me furious, because so many people in the conspiracy theory community are mentally ill or dealing with things, and that's just not fair.
Accelerate rejuvenation, often referring to frequencies and vibrations to explain their tech. But at least Baxter doesn't claim his beds come from outer space.
And then some of the med beds say they'll grow back hands. Like, technology doesn't grow back an arm or a limb.
Your technology for your mattress.
Or anything like that. It's just cellular regeneration at a more of a passive level.
A more of a passive level? Hey, sorry. What technology do you think is causing people's cells to regenerate? Are you literally talking about the fact that everyone regenerates cells when we sleep? Because during our rest period is a time our body takes an opportunity to, like, replace things? Because that's not your bed. That's literally just how sleep works.
There are even virtual medbed treatments.
What does that even mean? What? It's like a medbed NFT?
Like the one in this glossy promo.
Oh, you guys saw that NFTs, like, lost... We knew this already, but there was an actual report that came out that was like a meta-analysis of the market. Like, all NFTs are virtually worthless now. They always were, but now it says they are too. Get Deformed with 37 months has just got the new COVID booster and the flu vaccine. Well, I hope that your side effects from those aren't too bad. Good for you. I need to get those too once I'm better.
That claims to channel healing quantum energy over your Wi-Fi connection.
Healing quantum energy.
You say the magic words 90-10 medbed. You can also think it or say it out loud. And in this moment, it installed automatically a full energetic bubble around your body.
And then
an energetic bubble. Do you have any evidence of this bubble, sir? Is the bubble in the room with us right now? H-Baird says, I found a documentary on how these work.
Think about it.
God damn it. Okay, fuck it. I gotta show this scene. I'll just delete it for YouTube.
The cells in your body have been doing the same job. The same dull, monotonous routine every day since you were conceived. Metabolize, divide, metabolize, divide. Wouldn't you get bored? Of course you would. So at some point, the cells just say that's it. And you, the unwary victim of cellular ennui.
Cellular ennui is still an amazing fucking, like, thing to say.
Are quite literally bored to death.
I never thought about it that way.
Dr. Bafkin of Andros 3 was the first to come up with the answer to solving the puzzle of death. Keep the cells energized. Keep them in the game by teaching them new mitochondrial tricks. Unfortunately, before he could finish his work, Dr. Bafkin died in a shuttle accident. Or so they say. And while the soulless minions of orthodoxy refused to follow up on his important research, I could hear the clarion call of destiny ringing in my ears.
I love that. Deep Space Nine is fucking awesome.
There's Tesla biohealing.
You don't have to turn it on, you don't have to plug it in, you just carry it with you.
So we
sounds like bullshit to me.
Put the Tesla biohealer on this little buddy.
Oh
my
god.
gosh. And there it goes. Wow.
Aside from...
Don't put various things on birds. Don't put creams on birds you found.
Selling so-called medbed tech online, the company runs at least 8 in-person medbed centers around the United States.
Holy shit, baby. Illinois Tesla Medbed Center? Are you fucking shitting me?
Last April, the Daily Beast documented a Tesla biohealing marketer on Telegram claiming their technology helped her husband's cancer. For just $19,999.
Oh, they're gonna get sued by Elon for sure.
You can buy a pair of the company's Tesla medbed generators. The company claims these 28-pound cans generate...
It just recharged using the magnetic fields. That's how the government recharges their drones.
A field of pure life force energy. And they have no shortage of testimonials praising their products.
I slept with 4 cans. I can't tell you. It was crazy. I am like a different human being.
There isn't any scientific evidence that these devices can treat diseases or heal people. But regenerative medicine is an actual field where scientists search for ways to regrow or repair cells, organs, or tissues.
There's no magic technology. Hyped up claims about what can be done in terms of curing cancer or promoting regeneration comes from a little bit of 2 places. One is hope. People want to get something to be able to treat themselves. And the other part of it is a little bit of hype. There are some nanotechnologies that are being developed. These have been developed and...
They could get lucky and have Musk buy them out for more than they're worth. It is grifty enough that it's something he'd be interested in selling losers.
Tested. None of these are being used in human patients at this point in time.
Yet the sickness and desperation driving the world of medbeds are very real. When you get past the aliens, it's probably no coincidence that so many sick and desperate people don't have faith in the healthcare industry.
Conspiracy theories are only as popular as the ideas that make them appealing. Most of these people at some point became disillusioned with the established system of government and democracy, and with science and medical system and healthcare. And some of these grievances are very...
The new patent medicine business is just so cringe, right? And we're not even gonna get like a new Coca-Cola out of it. How lame.
well justified.
I miss when the patent medicine used to taste so yummy they made a virgin version and it became the #1 soft drink in the world.
We've all lived through the opioid drug crisis, which was an actual conspiracy.
Life-saving treatments aren't exactly being suppressed, but if you can't access or afford them, they might as well be. Take insulin.
Since 2008, 3 top manufacturers raised the list price of insulin at least 10 times.
Oh boy, those countries sure should get nationalized.
4 out of 5 Americans who use insulin end up in debt.
These companies get wealthy off of, like, publicly funded research anyway. Why the fuck should these profits be going to private investors?
Even with insurance, people die every year from rationing their supplies.
My son couldn't afford the life-saving medication he needed.
Republicans blocking a $35 cap for insulin for people with...
Why aren't people sick of this propaganda?
Private insurance.
For some people, the allure of magical cures will just be more appealing than the messy, uphill battle of fighting the healthcare industry and the lawmakers who protect its profits. And the more people believe that extraterrestrials will fix their health problems, the less they're looking to their leaders to actually make their lives better in the real world.
Very sad.
In the foothills of the Italian Alps, in 1978, a group of people started digging, building temples deep underground, and believed they could communicate with cosmic beings. They called themselves Damanhur.
Damanhur's greatest wish is to leave the world altogether. They're trying to book a one-way ticket into space.
That's never good. That's never good. That's never a good thing to be a part of, because... Okay, there's the things in millennia, oh god, millennial cults, in this case millennial doesn't mean the age demographic, it means millennialism is a form of cult basically in which they think a certain day is going to come in this thing, like it's named after the idea of like, oh, the new millennium is coming, so this is the dawning of a new age. Something is happening, we're crossing a threshold, something like that. So it's a little bit like a doomsday cult, but it's not necessarily doom and gloom on doomsday. It's just a transformative event of some kind. So anyway, in these cults, there's something called forcing the end, where after the predictions of the millennial event or the doomsday doesn't happen, because, you know, it's a conspiracy cult thing, so of course it's not going to happen. But eventually they synthesize the belief that they need to be the instruments of this change or doomsday. So like with the Haley Bob Comet cult, whatever it was called, they did a like ritualistic, they all self-deleted. They self-deleted so they could go on a spaceship because it didn't happen really. They thought they needed to not be amongst the living anymore to board the spaceship. So, this sounds very similar. Same playbook, not good.
If a Damanhurian were to walk past you in the street, you'd never know they claim to have mastered time travel. and possess
Ooh, time travel fun.
ancient alien healing powers.
Oh wow, that's a lot of springs. Huh. Or those like actual tubes?
From the lost city of Atlantis.
The temples are
Nah, the Kool-Aid one was Jim Jones.
alive. They are like spaceships.
You'd think they would want
Also, it was Flavor Aid. They had Flavor Aid and Kool-Aid.
to protect such fantastic alien powers from outsiders. But no, they welcome new members with open arms. There are hundreds of members already, and all you need to do to join them is swear to give Damanhur
Sono disposto a offrire la mia vita e ogni cosa in mio possesso.
everything.
Cults do that. Cults make you give up everything and devote everything to the cult.
Damanhur has followers all around the world, but their capital is here, outside Turin in Italy, where over 600 followers live in a community complete with shops, living quarters, and temples. Damanhur shunned the media, but by promising not to call them a cult, I've managed to get an invitation to their
The stank she put on that was so funny.
biggest celebration,
It's alright, I'll do it for you.
the birthday
They're a cult.
party of the deceased founder Falco. An insurance
Oh
broker
my god. Alright. Well,
who in the 70s became a spiritual guru.
Nata per mettere assieme i sogni di tante persone e per creare una condizione nuova.
It was Falco's vision that led to 9 temples being built, 70 meters underground. They are Damanhur's version of the Sistine Chapel, complete with pretty much every religious symbol.
I mean, aesthetically, it's kind of dope. I wish it wasn't a cult compound, because it's actually kind of a cool thing. Profane Priestess says, on the one hand, I feel bad for people. Death is scary, and losing people you love is BS. On the other hand, denying reality isn't healthy. There's no panacea. You'll die, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this year, but one day you will die. That's inevitable. I'm sorry, but you have to find a way to live with it. Your rage is justified. Big Pharma is exploiting you. Aliens won't stop that. Nationalizing pharma and abolishing private healthcare will. I assume that was about the last video.
And deity imaginable, as well as portrayals of their members. Ah, there's Falco.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Why won't anyone draw me in their cult mural? Scotty the Scot, thanks for 15 months, says, I can't give you everything. Will this sub do? Take me to space with you, my queen. If I'm going to space, it's just me in space.
Falco. Everyone in Damanhur adopts an animal name.
Welcome in the temples of humankind.
For Mika means ant.
That's me, by the way. So this is the hall, which is the
Sorry, Profane Priestess. I wasn't trying to be, like, judgy. That wasn't my intent with the last video comment.
The beauty of this planet. In these walls, you can see all different landscape that represent the beauty and the diversity.
I just always like to give context in case someone has just come in and doesn't know what the previous video was. So I just wanted to make it clear.
Of this planet Earth.
Cultural appropriation is taken to its extent.
Baha does not want to go to space, which is a decision I respect. I don't blame her. Space is scary.
Extreme here, but
We've had this discussion a couple times. One of them recently. Basically, her position is doesn't want to go to space, which fair enough. I compare it to I would never want to go like to the Titanic. Like I would never deep sea dive, even in an actual professional submersible or submarine. So, understandable.
Damanhurians say they're honoring.
What's my favorite part about space? Microgravity.
All cultures and religions whose origins were known to the lost city of Atlantis.
Artist depictions. Gonna be safe though and back
we
up.
have reached the highest level of both technological development and also spiritual growth. That has been.
I wouldn't go to space for any long period of time.
A moment in the empire of Atlantis.
And in Atlantis, they apparently also befriended what sounds like ancient...
Oh, I get it, because of reptilian. I get it. Reptilians are from Earth. You guys are usurpers.
Ancient aliens.
We have a special alliance with a species which is called Self. And they are cosmic beings. All the temples has been created to be also a bridge with this intelligent species that are...
But seriously though, I've wanted to go to space ever since I watched Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, and Xenon the Sequel when I was a kid on Disney. I always loved those movies.
Allow us to connect it with what? With the laws that are underlying this universe.
When you talk about other intelligent being, is it outside our world as well, like Earth, I mean?
Yeah, it can be absolutely.
If you think all this talk of alien creatures is a bit far-fetched,
so the temples, they are like spaceships.
Then I'm completely with you. However, having never found a cure for my own mental health issues, I am prepared to try anything.
There was a sequel to what?
Even channeling invisible cosmic beings.
Don't make fun of Enya.
Lucky for me, Antelope here has just the right handmade copper contraption called an intelligence machine to do just that. With mental health and mental illness and healing, do you have...
Oh, Xenon had a threequel. There was Xenon the Sequel, and then there was Z3, which was terrible.
Anything that would work here?
Is not different for us, because in our holistic vision is the body, the psychological part, and the soul.
Is that a human bird cage?
Part, so spiritual part.
It looks like a human bird cage.
Are together. Every treatment can work on the physical part, on the psychological part, and also on the spiritual.
This is just what sonic showers in Star Trek look like.
My first treatment begins with Antelope connecting into my frequency by repeatedly tapping 6 marbles glued to a wall.
Okay. Every...
Huh. All right then.
Code can work in different way. For example, here, different kind of code, different treatments. And during this treatment, we have a sound.
They believe this specific frequency will attract the selves, their cosmic friends, to realign my organs or whatever else Antelope asks them to do.
Okay, Alessia, now you can come for the second part.
Oh, it's multi-part. That's why there's the different equipment, obviously. This is very legit, so you gotta go from one piece of equipment to another, because it's legitimate. H-Spirit says, next thing you know, they'll tell you that if you don't symbolically cannibalize a 2,000-year-old zombie, your ghost will burn.
You lay down on the bed.
I'm not feeling any selfic beings working within me so far, but I am mesmerized by the mass of copper and super glue hovering above me.
This treatment starts now, but start to work and increase and grow for the next 15-16 days. And after, stabilize the result, and is long for 1 year. If you want to repeat next year, we are here.
I like that they have a skeleton to show that it's a legitimate medical office, because they have a skeleton.
Cost of this treatment is 150 euros, but the prices go up to the thousands. A hefty sum for what so far feels more like a grad show by someone really into copper. Next on the agenda, a visit to our local time travel expert, Gnomo.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
Gnomo.
Alessia.
This is a gate, a portal. When you step in the other side, you change the
I don't think it's one of their patients. I don't think they would have preserved him that well.
memory inside your body. Is all surrounded by selfic elements, water, and the energy of the selfica. They are working on our time-space plane.
Selfica is what they call objects acting as conduits to reach their cosmic friends, the selves.
I think that we can recap the complete selfic approach to a time technology.
Is it metaphorical or
It's
is
physical.
it? And did you do it?
Yes.
And what happened?
With time travel?
Yes.
Time travel is a complex technology.
Okay.
So there is not a movement. You will be there. And you have to come back.
What if I get stuck?
If you get stuck, you have to change your own life and you create your own life there.
Oh.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
The most important aspect is not only to find a way to move in time, but also to come back to your.
Okay. With the portal conveniently out of service, there's no risk of getting stuck today. However,
That's unfortunate. It's like the McDonald's shake machine. The time machine is just never on when you want it to be.
there's no end to the possibilities promised by the other shiny objects in the room.
This is the most advanced kind of Selfica. It's the high end of Selfica. This is a water inside that comes from the 60s, and we use that small drop of waters to energize the other waters. It's a sort of laptop, a computer of Selfica.
Is it?
If I wanted to buy one, how
Yes.
much would it be?
The average from 7,000 euros to 15,000
Oh my
euros.
God.
Mine is about 40,000.
It's hard to imagine anyone willing to pay 40,000 euros for something like this. But followers all around the world believe these objects allow them to heal without traveling to Damanhur. There's items aimed at all ages, claiming to activate a self-healing process for everything, from hearing loss to stress, insomnia,
Jesus.
cervical pain, and bad eating habits. The healing is supposed to happen after wearing the item for weeks or months, but there's no guarantee.
This kind of circuit helps the person to make harmony inside of us.
High-end jewelry is also claimed to channel the cosmic friends to help with healing.
This is the jewelry of Damanhur. All these circuits is like our electronic circuit you find in a tablet in your computer. This is the same, and we can program this piece for different function. Okay. A piece like this is like for us or Ferrari.
If I wanted to buy this, how much would this be?
The price is 44,000 euro.
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay. Here,
Yeah.
it's not going with me. Trying to understand the supposed cosmic science behind these often expensive devices has left me feeling skeptical. I thought the prices were exaggerated because I don't know if these things are actually going to work.
You're being a little generous. Just gonna be honest, you're being pretty generous. These things do not work.
It just feels it's taking advantage for people like myself who actually have suffered from eating disorders, of anxiety or depression.
Just Belmont, thanks for 25 months.
It's not only their unusual healing devices that raise questions, but also some former members have brought their alleged financial grievances with Damanhur to the press and even to court. This former member left Damanhur a long time ago after claiming to have given them a vast sum of money.
I left after realized Damanhur was a fake spiritual place. Within the community, everybody had an animal and vegetable name, Falcon the Falcon. He was the guru, he was the chief, he always controlled everything. The democracy was the external face, the reality was really different. You had to give all your income, real estate, or your money to the community.
And what sort of things did you have to give to Damanhur?
I gave to Damanhur all my salary. I gave to Damanhur my inheritance, around 500,000 euros. So,
Jesus.
Since I can't question
What would a vegetable name be? Kakarot?
Falco about this, I found a core member, Coboldo, who's been here from virtually the beginning.
How did you first become involved with the Damanhur?
Per il mio mestiere di giornalista ho deciso di conoscere meglio questi matti che hanno creato questa comunità. Poi, diventando amici, ho preferito cambiare la mia vita e venire a Damanhur per costruire qualcosa di concreto. Ho aperto l'ufficio stampa che ancora non esisteva e abbiamo avuto alcuni problemi. Molti attacchi a Damanhur in quel periodo. Attacchi a Damanhur vuol dire Damanhur è una setta pericolosa, i damanhuriani vivono in un modo che diventa un esempio negativo. Questo ha dato modo alle istituzioni italiane di trovare le cose illegali che c'erano, e cosa che non è mai avvenuta.
Among the legal cases brought against Damanhur were the temple's lack of building permissions and legal challenges from ex-Damanhurians trying to recover their money.
I've heard that when you join Damanhur, you have to give up your possessions. Is that true?
Siamo in un mondo di fake news. Damanhur è cresciuta.
Wow, a cult using fake news as an excuse. Wow. It's almost like it's a thought-stopping mechanism to avoid criticism.
Esattamente in quel modo nei primi 10 anni della sua vita. Lì era necessario fare uno sforzo importante per mettere insieme le risorse e far crescere la comunità. È stata una scelta molto dura, difficile. Dopo i primi 10 anni questo non è più stato assolutamente necessario.
Coboldo says members are no longer required to give them all their money. His job has been to protect Damanhur's reputation.
Now I bet it's just the vast majority.
He was close friends with their founder.
Ho conosciuto Falco.
That's never good when the cult gets into that phase. That's a critical phase for cults. When the first leader dies, what happens next? Does it fall apart and there's sort of a diaspora of a lot of the ideas? Sometimes these ideas end up in other cults, right? Sometimes there is a successful transfer of power and a lineage begins and a new religion is effectively born. Mormonism, for instance, is a cult turned... yeah. A recent example, I should say.
Nel 1981 io ho passato tutti questi anni con lui.
Scientology
Fino a quando
also started with L. Ron Hubbard being the center, and then he died, and
ha lasciato il corpo
it
nel
carried
2013. Era un uomo molto curioso, molto dinamico, un vulcano di idee.
With miniature Falco watching over us, his birthday, now a celebration for Damanhur, is kicked off by their new press officer, Labrador.
Welcome to everyone, and we would like to start now with lighting the fires of the arch and the falcon.
Food is burnt as an offering to the land.
Grazie per tutti questi momenti che ci sono concessi.
An actual falcon is spotted flying above the celebrations.
Our spiritual guide is Falco, so for us, falcons are really a good scene.
What does
I've not really covered realism now.
to you?
I'm familiar with it
my life,
vaguely.
my dream, the opportunity to do whatever I want and to look for new discovery.
Con voi, buona continuazione. Buon pomeriggio a tutti.
He was always trying to put the focus not on himself, but on us together. And it always has been a very beautiful opportunity, many things happening, many events. It's really a day of celebration and being happy together.
And they sing their national anthem. As I look around, I notice there are not many young people here. Oh, there's one.
How comes you're in Damanhur?
I was born here.
Oh.
You basically grow in the community, and it's a beautiful thing. But after 18, 19, maybe you feel this push of going outside and discover more the world and all the other things. Because a community can be a very special, but also is like a bubble sometimes.
While some choose to leave the nest, those who stay seem to fully embrace the Damanhurian ethos.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'll be 28 next month, and I was actually born in Damanhur.
So I'm a second generation Damanhurian.
How was that like growing up here?
Normal, of course. We are all part of a project. So we all contribute to Damanhur either, by money, if somebody is good in making money and can support the community like that, or with our time. People also are willing to invest their personal extra time from work in doing art, in creating services for the other Damanhurians.
To grow as a community, Damanhur needs young people to move in. Ura will be officially registering as a citizen today, after completing a trial period.
Io sono arrivato da Damanhur 5 anni fa, più o meno. Sono cresciuto con questi racconti di Damanhur e quindi io quando sono diventato grande ho deciso di venire
All
a
of
vivere
these
a
people need to sit down and watch Midsommar.
Damanhur, molto semplicemente.
Was it a bit of a cultural shock when you moved
On
to
second thought, maybe not. They might get some ideas.
Damanhur?
Never mind.
Assolutamente no. Non è stato facile ovviamente, nel senso che quando...
I have a gorgeous edition of Midsommar, by the way. It's like a book. It's beautiful.
Ti dicono, ti fanno notare un tuo atteggiamento, un tuo comportamento che da solo non te ne accorgeresti mai. Non è facile. Cioè, ci sono due le strade. O lo accetti e lavori su di te o te ne vai. Quindi la cosa bella per me è che ho la possibilità di migliorarmi e il rimando è quello, che ce la stai facendo e quindi ti impegni ancora di più, no?
Hundreds gather at the temple, ready for an important announcement.
Tante decisioni alla comunità, ma quando le persone
It's like a summer camp.
e dopo un periodo di prova confermano di avere questa intento nel cuore, fanno questo giuramento di adesione completa alla vita comunitaria.
Io, salamandra valcaria, giuro di pensare bene degli altri e sono disposto a offrire.
Don't spend $25 on Barbie's a good movie, but you don't have to spend $25.
La mia vita e ogni cosa in mio
I'm not going to tell you what to do, though. Buy it if you want.
possesso.
The idea of spending like $30 on a digital movie makes me skeeved out, though. I'm not a fan. If I'm paying $30, I better get a disc.
Although we had been reassured, the material possessions were no longer required to join.
Siamo in un mondo di fake news.
One after another, people take the oath, swearing to give...
I think the scariest thing to me is that he says the only word he says in English is fake news. It's unfortunate, isn't it?
Everything
Telling of the rhetoric.
to Damanhur.
E ogni cosa in mio possesso per aiutare la comunità e qualsiasi altro cittadino per raggiungere i fini per i quali questa stessa comunità è nata. Lo giuro.
What they just said, was that in a metaphorical sense? Or
No, it's literally.
they're telling us, oh, you don't have to give in your possessions, oh, you don't have to give in your life to them. But what I just heard is totally the opposite.
While new recruits seemingly sign their lives away, the show continues with some morph suit and harness action. At first I'm convinced it's a representation of their cosmic friends. Turns out, they're trying to convince the audience their animal names should be fish-themed. I'm feeling off-center and confused. Perhaps I need to reconnect with the elements, and for this, I need a guide.
And feel if something happens inside of you. Whether you feel a change, a sensation. Does it tickle somewhere? Is it warm? Or nothing changed at all? Sometimes it takes a while to train your perception.
Strompoli says every night at this place. What's the password? Orgy.
What is the password?
Orgy.
The new season's good, by the way. They're still funny. Where did it go? Where's the cult? There it is.
contact with the earth element. Choose the standing stone you feel most attracted to. Lean your chest and then your stomach against the stone. Breathing deeply until you smell the scent of the mineral. When the scent turns into a flavor in your mouth,
what?
Push your tongue against your palate and collect as many emotions as you can. You are in contact with the earth. And why is that so? Because the standing stones are fixed in the earth, so they are like antennas. That's why you can, through touching or contacting the stone, get in touch with the element earth. Do I need to?
Couldn't you just do that with like a tree or any other, like a mountain?
And also
or any big rock?
Stone is an earth element. Do you taste something in your mouth? I'm sure after a while, if you would do that more often, or you can do it also more often, because I guess there are also stones where you live.
No, there are no rocks where I live.
I came to Damanhur looking for a magical cure to my mental health problems, but what I found was a creative community holding on to their traditions.
Art is important in Damanhur. Everybody is an artist and has to express their own creativity.
Whether or not we choose to believe in cosmic beings and selfic powers, curiosity draws more people into this cultural experiment that began with their founder Falco all those years ago.
The dream is to create a new way of being in society, a new way of living together, having a connection with ourselves.
I leave Damanhur thinking that while many of the people here seem to have found the key to living happy lives, what cost does it come at?
Oh! Let's see, the first 10 years everyone gave everything to build the community. Now it's voluntary. The oath you witnessed is correct and that you're willing to give everything to the community if necessary. This doesn't mean you have to transfer it all to Damanhur. New members decide independently if and how to contribute with what possessions they have. Oh, it's up to you. How committed are you to the community? I can already see, yeah. Cults don't usually hold a gun to your head. It's social pressure, persuasion, cons. You get it.
Injured victims are women.
Elliot Roger here. I will slaughter.
That's a bit intense. I don't know if I want to do that. Fuck it. Let's finish with the thing about John Carpenter. I love John Carpenter. We'll finish with the movie thing like we started.
Just seem to tap into something in our teenage brains that we love.
That community was in Italy.
He's made some of the most memorable and iconic horror and sci-fi films.
He's just always been searching for that thread that kind of makes us jump.
That stuff was nasty.
He's there to terrify you.
Oh God, I hate Eli Roth.
And you feel like you're in the hands of an unstable narrator.
That was Keith David, yes. Keith David was in several of John Carpenter's films.
For you, and you're not going to like it.
Look at his chest.
A man collapses into a pile of insects in John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness.
Why do I hate Eli Roth? He's just got like a frat bro persona. He's just kind of a frat bro. And like if you watch like Cabin Fever, it's just got a lot of uses of slurs. Just a lot of things. He just comes off as like dude bro-y. In a not like, and to be clear, I'm cool with like dude bros who are just like bruh, you know, or just like dude. I don't mean that. I mean that in the sexism. It feels like he is quite immature, sexist, homophobic in the sort of casual high school, middle school way where if something is stupid, they'll call it like gay or they'll use the F slur. He's got that kind of attitude. And in fairness, maybe he doesn't at this point in his life. He's older. That's fair. But, I don't know. He's just always rubbed me the wrong way.
It's one of
I do like Cabin Fever, for the record. The first Hostel's also okay, but
the many moments
not really my thing.
That earns him the moniker Master of Horror.
Jesus Christ!
I think the Carpenter horror movies are very scary, serious horror. There's nothing silly in those movies.
I'm not an intellectual filmmaker, so yeah, give me a bucket of blood and I'll just dump it on you.
John Carpenter is primarily known as sort of a cult film director. He's never really gotten the respect that he deserves.
I think these days it's better. I think pretty much everyone who likes films has an opinion on John Carpenter. Like, if you are into films, it would be hard to avoid at least some of his bigger movies, you know? So I'd say these days, I think he luckily, at least in the circles where people talk about movies, especially horror movies, which he might not be the biggest fan of. I know his whole career, he never really wanted to do just the horror thing, but he got very shoehorned by studios, which I feel bad for, especially because I don't think they knew how to properly market his movies and stuff, and then they blame him when they don't do well. I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I think that he luckily does get accolades these days, which is nice.
Father of the slasher film, John Carpenter has made his distinct mark on horror, sci-fi, and action. But in a career of influential cult hits, he's also been plagued by flops that kept him on the fringes of the movie world. This master of minimalism is at his best with less.
John Carpenter was really the first director for myself as a kid that I was conscious of who he was. John Carpenter's Halloween, John Carpenter's The Fog. Like, he became very
I do wonder, how did he convince the studios to call things... Well, I guess Halloween was independent, so he could do whatever the fuck he wanted. I guess with that. So he could call it John Carpenter's Halloween. But, like, with The Thing, how did he get that in his contract that, like, his movies are, like, John Carpenter's blank? He made a brand for himself, which is smart.
Conscious of, like, John Carpenter. And I don't know why one particular filmmaker will just define a period in your life, but that is how I think of John Carpenter's.
The Fog could have been better. Name a better film from the 80s about ghost pirates. I'll wait.
Movies.
Most people that are considered B-movie directors, they were making the most interesting films of any time period. They're trying to explain something very basic and foundational to the human condition.
Those directors will take you on this trip, and it's like, you know, this could happen. Does he know something I don't?
John Carpenter grew up in 1950s Kentucky, watching Howard Hawks' westerns and low-budget horror films.
Howard Hawks movies are my favorites. Only Angels Have Wings, Rio Bravo, His Girl Friday. I can go on and on.
At the University of Southern California, he collaborates on a short film about a big city kid who dresses up like his Western heroes to live out his cowboy fantasies.
At the very beginning of his career, you know,
Or
John Carpenter got an Oscar for his first short student film.
My bad.
Carpenter's next film also starts as a student project, but eventually morphs into a low-budget theatrical feature.
The Orson Welles downtown, they would do this sci-fi marathon. It was the greatest 24 hours of my life. And the first movie they showed was Dark Star.
This is one I haven't seen.
There's an alien that's like an inflatable beach ball. It looks like a tomato with legs. It's like, it's amazing, and they're trying to chase it through the ship.
Made for a mere $60,000, Dark Star's mix of thrifty special effects and pothead humor frames the story of three men lost in space.
It was written by Carpenter and Dan O'Bannon, and Dan O'Bannon went on to write Alien. But if you watch Dark Star and then watch Alien, you'll see the seeds of those ideas being worked out by two kids just out of film school.
Dark Star's minimalist style and DIY design prove Carpenter's ability to deliver on a shoestring budget, earning him the chance to make a second feature.
Assault on Precinct 13 is a siege film about these gangs, you know, getting revenge on police.
The gang leaders who unite in a blood pact to destroy Precinct 13 barely say a single word.
It's actually not Precinct 13. The movie's called that, but it doesn't actually happen in Precinct 13. They just thought it sounded better for the title.
Word the entire film.
I like movies with simple...
I think it's actually like Precinct 9, Section 13 is set in the movie or something like that.
Situations, you know, and that's what John has. It's just that knack for here's such a simple premise that as soon as you hear it, you can't wait to see it.
Carpenter embraces his low-budget limitations in the shocking scene where a young girl crosses paths with the bloodthirsty gang.
Can I get an ice cream?
Oh, this fucking scene! Yes.
The little girl in Assault on Precinct 13, that's one of John's, what he would call one of his cheap tricks. It's about the fact that the second that she goes,
Hey, this is regular vanilla.
The audience goes, oh, he's not gonna kill the little girl from the Disney movie, is he?
I wanted vanilla twist.
Of course, he does it.
Oh, so
What better way
good.
to establish somebody as a bad guy than have him kill an innocent kid.
That was a pretty good squib. That was
The
fun.
tension created by the gang's shooting spree
That was like Hammer horror red blood. Did you see how red that blood was?
is amplified by the soundtrack. And like the script, it's written by Carpenter.
That soundtrack is as much a part of the narrative as the characters are. All you need is a dun 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 dun. What he was doing with synths and what he was doing with the score and even sound design is so ahead of its time and still is.
You see a million movies and you come out and go, hum me one piece of music from that movie. You can't. You can't remember a thing ever. You can always remember his stuff. It does what it needs to do.
We had no money. I was cheap and I was fast, so I just went in and recorded music and put it on with my limited chops as a musician. That's what I can play.
After mixed...
That's so funny. One of the most prolific and famous soundtrack writers of all time thinks he's not that good. That's pretty good.
Reviews in the U.S. Precinct 13 gets an overwhelmingly positive...
Like, he's not John Williams. It is simpler music. His whole ethos with music in his films, John Carpenter, has been he likes it to just kind of set the scene. He doesn't want it to be too in the forefront. He likes it kind of sit in the back, which is why it's a lot of droning and vibes and stuff. But, like, it's incredibly effective. The Halloween theme song alone is, like, one of the most famous film score songs of all time. Completely separate from the movie. Like, that's on every creepy soundtrack compilation. People know immediately what that's associated with.
Response at the London Film Festival and throughout Europe.
It did very well for him, even though it was made for very little money.
Carpenter gets triple the budget for his next project and revolutionizes the horror film world.
I mean, Halloween really redefined the modern horror movie.
Until The Blair Witch in 1999, it was the most financially successful independent film ever made.
I think Ninja Turtles was in there in the middle somewhere. Right?
I remember using the term horror movie back then.
Because Ninja Turtles, the first one, was an independent film that got distributed by Columbia. I guess I don't remember who distributed the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Exists. We called everything monster movies. Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, that's what I grew up on. And it wasn't till we saw Halloween that...
What? I just realized it's Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie, why are you here? You made the bad Halloween movies. I didn't actually have anything personally against Rob Zombie. I just don't like his movies.
It was something else.
Halloween really started the new golden age of horror in the 80s. They talk about the famous story how that movie showed to
Wait, no, that couldn't have been. Because Nightmare on Elm Street was the first movie that New Line Cinema produced. Was it the same person before? Was it like Bob Shea before he formed New Line?
And nobody said they were scared. And then Carpenter...
Because New Line's first film was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Took the movie and completely rescored it.
That's why it's called The House That Freddy Built.
Himself, and people were absolutely terrified.
As, you know, legendary as John Carpenter, the director.
After a while, scoring my own movies became another creative voice.
From Halloween's opening sequence Carpenter uses his bigger budget to pioneer techniques that would define the next decade of slasher films.
Well, we used a piece of equipment called a Panaglide, which is a Panavision version of the Steadicam. We did this opening shot from the killer's point of view.
Grabbing a knife, going up a flight of stairs, and he walks in on his sister.
Oh, they blurred it. They blurred it.
We're in the POV of this person. Mainstream North American audiences had seen something like that.
Black Christmas utilized killer POVs. I'm trying to think, were any of the kills in Black Christmas in POV or just the stalking scenes?
When the dead girl's parents return home and remove the killer's mask.
Either way, Giallo films did this. It's something that slashers took from Giallo and Black Glove murder stuff in general, was murder POV stuff.
They discovered their own son, Michael.
I loved Halloween for this force of pure evil that can kill you in your own home. It comes in the form of Michael Myers, that you're not safe in your own home. Something's gonna come and stab you and there's no purpose for it.
I believe there is evil in the world and there's evil in nature. It's real. I saw this as a kid. So I explore that kind of thing. I have in my career.
I love it. I own all of the Halloween movies, by the way. Let me show you. I'm really proud of this. I'm proud of the collection that I have cultivated. I can probably switch to this camera and use it as like an external. Let me see if I can fix this. What about this one? What if we make this? This? No? Wait, that one? Oh. I see it. You guys can't, but that's fine. Okay, let me... There you go. Okay, so let's see if we can show you my shelf a little more up close. One sec. What is this caught on? There we go. It's a little better. Ugh. Okay. Ah. Don't know if it'll focus. I'll make it focus. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. So anyway, behind the teeth, behind the comical teeth, you can see Halloween through Halloween Resurrection, a really nice box set that came out from Shout Factory in the last couple years, and then the newer Halloween trilogy, which doesn't have the nice boxes or whatever, but you get it. I actually do want to make it so I can use this more often as a secondary cam. I think it'd be cool. There's stuff you don't normally see. My documentaries and classic films. There's my Doctor Who. My kaiju stuff.
Okay. 15 years after murdering his sister, Michael Myers escapes from a psychiatric hospital and returns home for a killing spree on Halloween.
It gave John the opportunity to imbue the killer with a supernatural quality and make him completely this unstoppable force.
To fight the evil, Carpenter uses a fresh trope in horror cinema, the so-called final girl.
I mean, that existed in Texas Chainsaw, arguably. Definitely. That was definitely Texas Chainsaw.
Halloween is one of the most important examples of the final girl.
At least. I'm sure there's prior.
In horror films.
A bookish, resourceful young woman, she stands apart from her sexually active
What year is this movie? Halloween's like 78, 79, maybe 77. Oh, it wasn't Black Christmas too?
Teenage peers who are picked off one by one.
Sits up, you know, in that real methodical sort of way, like...
That part. I love that part. The doo-doo, doo-doo. The simplicity of John Carpenter's scores are what make them. He does so much to set a mood with, like, so few notes. It's just, like, simple. But that's all you need for these movies. It's perfect.
It was always so slowly paced that it would drive you crazy watching it. And I couldn't remember ever seeing anything else like that. Monsters were either there or they were dead. It just kind of blew you away.
Halloween goes on to earn almost $50 million in the US and spawn one of the most influential franchises in film history.
And one of the most wildly swinging in terms of quality.
It was more than a crowd pleaser. It was a complete game changer for the entire industry, in a sense. But maybe that's hard too. It's like a band who has a smash with their first record. You spend the rest of your life chasing that.
Success moves the director further from the fringe and closer to his highborn hero, Howard Hawks. The once scrappy student filmmaker now has $5 million to make his
Escape
next
from New
film.
York!
New York's the maximum security prison, which is brilliant, and the president's plane goes down.
The US president disappears into Carpenter's post-apocalyptic Manhattan, which is now a giant walled prison.
Government officials enlist Snake Plissken under threat of death to rescue the president.
What Carpenter loved about John Wayne, he finds in Kurt Russell.
Man, this guy really knows how to do this.
I think Escape from New York is worth watching. Escape from LA, maybe not. Escape from LA is a sequel he got to make like a decade later. Not great.
You just buy it.
The surfing thing made me laugh, though. I can't lie, so.
From the first minute you see, Snake Plissken, he just walks around with this kind of like John Wayne swagger, and you obviously know that he's badass. And it's not just the eye patch, it's his attitude. It's just like, you're president, and he couldn't give a shit about anybody, right?
We're still at war, Plissken. We need him alive.
I don't give a about your war or your president.
John's kind of cranky.
Isn't John Carpenter based? He made They Live. He's gotta be.
He's kind of cynical about stuff. And the characters are kind of cranky and cynical. Like, Snake Plissken's not like a hero. He's kind of a dick.
Escape from New York is a hit, grossing over $20 million, and Snake Plissken becomes an action movie icon.
The thing about Snake Plissken...
So funny, considering he was just in that one movie. Of course, later we had Escape from LA, but like he did kind of become a trope almost, even though he's just in the one movie throughout the 80s. That's so weird.
What we liked back then was he just seemed cool. We didn't need to go deeper. He's cool, we're done.
Riding the wave of success, Carpenter gets his dream job, the chance to remake his hero's film with a deviant twist.
The Thing is, hands down one of the finest horror films that's ever been made.
In John Carpenter's The Thing, a dozen male researchers stationed in the Antarctic make a disturbing discovery.
They stumble across the remains of an otherworldly beast that has the capability of mimicking anything it comes across, including human beings.
We found this.
When the men uncover The Thing, Carpenter reveals lavish special effects that are nothing like the thrifty minimalism of his early films.
There's one sequence I'm really proud of. That's when Norris's head comes off.
And then the spider legs. You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Often. And he grows eye stalks and looks around the corner.
Everybody I know who does effects, that's the reason they do effects for a living. That's the only thing they ever cite.
The mutating head pushes horror technique into a new effects realm.
I asked John, how did you come up with the idea for the look of these creatures? He said, well, I came to me in a dream. I said, whoa, I don't want to be in your head.
This is The Thing. They're talking about The Thing right now.
In the original version of The Thing by Howard Hawks, the men band together to defeat the alien creatures.
One of the world's greatest battles was fought and won today by the human race.
But in Carpenter's version, the men are torn apart by suspicion and paranoia.
Somebody in this camp ain't what he appears to be. Right now, that may be one or two of us. By spring, it could be all of us.
In that movie, there's always a sense of could it be him, could it be him, could it be him?
Kurt Russell is R.J. McReady. He insists that the men take a blood test, to prove that they're not the thing.
The paranoid fear begins to infiltrate.
We're gonna draw a little bit of everybody's blood.
You can't trust who's who anymore.
We're gonna find out who's the thing.
One or all of those people could be the thing at any time, and you wouldn't even know it.
The distrust of man certainly is a very strong theme. It was the scene where they do the blood test. The sound of slicing the thumb is the most painful thing in the movie. That slicing the thumb and squeezing the blood into the petri dish, I remember we were squealing. It's one of the greatest scenes in horror movies. It's just such a perfect movie.
Oh,
Even
the shaking he does before he
Ow.
Awful.
It doesn't feel dated.
In the film's final scene, we never learn if either or both of the last two men are the thing.
I think we played it with enough suspicion that it could have been either one of us. And who would know?
What do we do?
Why don't we just...
So it's an early version of Among Us? You just made me feel so old.
wait here for a little while. See what happens.
I hate when people try to solve the ending to this. Like, it's okay to speculate, you know, whatever. But, like, when people seriously try to do it as if there's an answer, that annoys me. Or, like, the ending to Inception, trying to answer the ambiguity present there. Like, you can talk about it for fun and think about it, because the thinking about it's the point. The fact that there isn't a direct answer is the point. There are some people who can't handle ambiguity, so there's this whole, like, cottage culture of, like, YouTube videos that are like, ending of film explained, and it's, like, often films that don't really need an explanation. They're just kind of open-ended, you know? And that's the point. You're experiencing the same uncertainty the characters felt. Movies are art that are supposed to make you feel things.
It was this beautiful, ambiguous ending for the film, which John thought, this is genius, this is genius. People hated it. Audiences hated it.
The Thing is released with a huge marketing push in July of 1982.
Universal wanted it to be a big summer moneymaker, but E.T. eclipsed everything. In July, it was still like
literally, that's the point I'm making, Brent. That's literally the thing I am saying.
Box office
I am saying there isn't an objective answer. That's the point.
Number one.
Spielberg had this amazing gift of being able to know what the audience needed. And at the time, they needed a big warm hug. And then here comes The Thing, which is this relentlessly downbeat, paranoid movie with this ambiguous ending. People just didn't get it.
Making The Thing was heartbreaking because you made something that you can look at and go, this is great. And then it doesn't connect, and you're just like, what the
His career was nearly decimated. He was fired by Universal off of his next project.
It ain't called show. It's called show business. And the business of show can be a bitch.
2 years after The Thing, Carpenter takes a creative U-turn and directs a mainstream...
Starman's cute. I like Starman. H-Beard says, the briefcase in Pulp Fiction held the original band to Bruce Willis's ass watch, and anyone who disagrees with me is a simpleton. Also, that sentence will make no sense to anyone who hasn't seen the movie.
Feel-good film.
He wanted to try to distance himself from being just the horror guy. And so he wanted to do this science fiction romance. And as friendly as Starman is, John Carpenter can't help himself. Even in Starman, he puts this totally bizarre transformation sequence in which the alien starts off as this creepy little baby, and then it grows into a fully grown man. He enlisted his horror guys to do that.
Yeah.
It's actually really creepy and unsettling.
Ew. Yeah.
Starman is a box office success, but Carpenter's artistic temperament isn't suited to Hollywood.
As you can see from the way I dress and the way I carry myself. I am Joe Hollywood. I hobnob with movie executives. I love them all. I've loved them all my career.
After his next studio picture fails to earn its money back, Carpenter makes an
not even gonna discuss Big Trouble in Little China. That's funny.
Unapologetic return to B-movies with Prince of Darkness and They Live.
Yeah.
A surprising mix of science fiction and social commentary.
They Live rules.
They Live has more significance today. It was eerily prophetic.
Literally, it was the 80s. It was a commentary on Reaganomics. What? It's still relevant today, don't get me wrong. Because still, Reaganomics. Shitty, laissez-faire capitalism. It's not more relevant. It's as relevant. Hate that shit.
They Live began from a short story called 8 o'clock in the morning. Basically, a guy is attending a hypnotist. The hypnotist says, wake up. And so this guy wakes up and there are monsters around him.
In They Live, wrestler Roddy Piper plays a drifter who discovers
Roddy Piper? Put respect on the man's name.
Truth-revealing sunglasses which expose a global media conspiracy run by aliens.
Sunglasses will show you really what's out there. But you take them off and the color world is the consumer world.
These aliens have kind of come in and are using television and all these advertising billboards, advertising to just mind control us.
Try these on. Look, you crazy mother. Put these on. Hey! Stay away from me!
When the drifter pressures his friend, played by Keith David, to try on the glasses, it turns into one of the best movie fight scenes of all time.
It's like 11 minutes. It's something so preposterous that it actually holds a record for the longest on-screen fight. The movie, in a crazy way, is actually turning into a WWF scene.
The fight.
I think if I remember correctly, they let Roddy Piper choreograph this. Because he's a wrestler, so he knows how to do show fighting.
Fashioned after the
make it look good.
Quiet Man with John Wayne.
Carpenter once again gives John Wayne a modern twist.
Look at them, they're everywhere!
They Live was Orwellian.
It's a new morning in America. Fresh, vital. The old
Like literally, that's supposed to be Reagan. That's the joke.
cynicism is gone. We have faith in our leaders.
That was one of the first movies that was very, very cynical about broadcasting and what we're being told. And 25, 30 years later, it feels true. Like you realize they're not even that subtle about it anymore.
I was raging against Reaganomics.
He said the thing.
Which is unrestrained capitalism. They Live as a documentary. The 80s never ended, and that stuff never ended. It's still going on today.
Based John Carpenter.
And it's going to get worse.
They Live's anti-establishment message resonates with audiences, turning it into one of Carpenter's biggest cult hits.
All of those signs from They Live, like, completely got into the Shepard Fairey pop culture, like started seeing the faces and obey signs. Everything comes from They Live.
That movie in 100 years will still be prescient because I feel like this is a problem within humanity and always has been about people taking advantage of others, whether they're aliens or they're not.
They Live is released in November 1988.
I remember it being #1 in the box office in the country for like 2 weeks. And then, you couldn't find it anywhere. We pissed somebody off.
Throughout the 90s, Carpenter directs a series of critical and commercial disappointments. Even Snake Plissken can't save the struggling filmmaker. But like his iconic character Michael Myers, Carpenter's legacy refuses to die.
He made so many movies that were perceived as failures critically and at the box office at the time that now everyone hails as classics.
The Thing was remade, The Fog was remade, Escape from New York is being
Then they remake them into shittier versions.
remade. Critics 20 years later would eat their words.
I always say that Cabin Fever is more of a remake of The Thing than The Thing is a remake of Howard Hawks' The Thing.
The
Hydrate.
Carpenter remakes.
Okay, let's not put Cabin Fever up there with The Thing. You're not. That's what I'm talking about. See what I mean about the douchiness? Eli Roth. Cabin Fever is kind of a fun B movie. It's not even close to The Thing. People don't dislike Cabin Fever because you're a mind-blowing visionary director. It's just kind of a meh movie.
Also
where you say the F slur a lot.
Include Precinct 13 and the iconic Halloween.
And use the N-word multiple times.
Talking about how Carpenter's influenced the horror genre of my generation is impossible, because for me, it's always been there. You know, it's like saying, oh, how has Star Trek or Star Wars influenced science fiction? It's like you can't even imagine a time when it didn't exist.
I'm short-term pessimist. Everything's going to be completely screwed up in the short term. But long-term, I have a great feeling that mankind may survive. I really do. You know, it's like religious faith. I want to believe that we survive. I want to believe that goodness. Short term, it doesn't necessarily work that way. And I got to go meet my
Thanks, Rat Ken.
drug dealer, guys. Let's finish this up.
Okay.
I seriously love John Carpenter. He's such an awesome guy. Okay, is that it for the day? Probably. We've been going for over 3 hours. I'm tired, guys. I'm tired. I'm very tired. So I'm gonna go rest. I will return tomorrow. Love you too, Mr. Blast. I will return tomorrow for another stream. Maybe Chud Watch. It's been a while since we did Chud Watch. So, see you guys then. Bye. Oh, wait. I usually do a raid. Fuck it. I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna end today. Have a good night.